Okay, good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Huerta, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Council members Roland Barrera.
Here.
Sylvia Campos. Here. Eric Cantu is absent. Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Kaylin Paxson is absent. Everett Roy.
Here.
Mark Scott.
Here.
Carolyn Vaughn. Okay, Ms. Vaughn is here. I think she just stepped out in the back. City Manager Peter Zanoni.
Present.
City Attorney Miles Risley.
Here.
Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Huerta. So this morning, we are going to have a presentation and discussion regarding the City Council approved drought contingency plan to include policies that address water supply, water availability, demand conditions, and drought stages. Excuse me, what we're going to do, if you'll go to your workshop agenda, is we're going to go through without questions, we're going to go through the presentation of drought contingency plan history and overview. The second bullet would be surcharges. The third one would be baseline usage, allocations, and curtailment. So after that bullet, then we'll do question and answer, and each council member will have 2 terms to speak at 5 minutes time. So, Mr. Winkleman, please start your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Nick Winkleman, Chief Operating Officer, Corpus Christi Water. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to present this important and critical subject. Presenting today will be myself. We will have Michael Dice, Interim Assistant City Manager, presenting one slide as well. And then also in support, we have Jeff Stovall and Michael Pinkney. They're with Carollo Engineers. They are heavily involved in our dashboard modeling and supporting our efforts in establishing baseline amounts for each of our customer classes. Before I get into the presentation, I do want to just take a moment and thank the city team and CCW for all the hard work that they've done throughout this last year. The team, staff continues to work 6 to 7 days a week. Tremendous work is being done on our new water supply projects, and certainly many city departments were involved in this presentation as well. With that, so we thank all of them. Let's go ahead and get started. Today we'll talk about a little bit of history on the drought contingency plan. We will review surcharges, baseline usage determination, allocations. Then we will go into new water meter connections. We will briefly discuss car washing and swimming pools, and we will discuss as well as some updates to the definitions in the drought contingency plan, and we will conclude with next steps. The history of the drought contingency plan, we would like to point out, Corpus Christi, our city, was the first city in Texas to develop a water conservation and drought contingency plan as a combined policy. That was done in 1986. In 2013, our council decided to separate these 2 plans into 2 distinct documents. Of course, one being the water conservation plan and one being the drought contingency plan. This drought contingency plan was last updated and approved by council on March 18th, 2025, so just a little over a year ago. The overview and the purpose of this plan, it's a business tool for managing operations and water supplies in drought situations. The plan absolutely calls for minimizing the use of non-essential water during drought conditions. It serves as a framework to manage times and water supplies during a water emergency. And it also defines triggering criteria for the initiation and termination of drought stages. This plan applies to all customers of CCW and all customer classes. Those customer classes are residential, commercial, wholesale, and large volume users. There's a lot of information in the drought contingency plan. The next two slides is certainly just an overview of the table of contents so that we can just refresh our memory what's included in there. But overall, it's a small document, but it contains quite a bit of information and certainly quite a bit of important information. A little bit of history. So Stage 1, drought restrictions Stage 1 was enacted June 14th of 2022. Stage 2 drought restrictions, March 12th of 2024. Stage 3 was enacted December 16th of 2024. The next step would be the date of a level 1 water emergency. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago at council, I submitted a number of different dashboard scenarios to help us understand when that date of level 1 water emergency might take effect. Just as a reminder, level 1 water emergency is when we are projected to be 180 days away from supply not meeting demand. So back to those scenarios. As you know, we had a number of different scenarios, and the date of the level 1 water emergency had a wide range. The day after we presented those scenarios, we certainly got some good news from LNRA managing Lake Texana and also from the state regarding our bed and banks permit for the Western Wellfield. Information has changed in those scenarios. We are working with our modeler, Carollo Engineers, to update the scenarios and provide this body an update to that in April. One of the reasons why is we want to determine and see how the water from the Western Wellfield, how the supply and the production is affected or not affected by the operation protocol as determined by TCEQ. So when you think about the drought contingency plan, we need a team to implement that, to work with our community, to work with our stakeholders, to work with areas both within the city and outside the city. The leaders of this implementation team are, of course, Peter Zanoni, our city manager, Chief Wade, the chief of our fire department, and Jace Johnson, our emergency management coordinator, as well as myself, the chief operating officer of CCW. Who are our stakeholders? Who are our critical facilities? So we've had a number of stakeholder meetings, but the things that we all think about are hospitals and healthcare, our schools, both higher education and also grade schools and middle schools and private schools, Catholic schools. And then we also have our commercial users, our large volume users, and we shouldn't forget our wholesale users either. We'll go into detail on each of those customer classes, but all of those customers of CCW are critical. They're all critical stakeholders into dealing with this situation. What the team has done is we continue to reach out to them, to meet with them, to help answer questions, and we're committed to continue doing so that they understand the efforts the city is taking to not enter into a level 1 water emergency, but also to ensure that we are prepared if the city does enter into a level 1 water emergency. And again, it's important to note level 1 water emergency is when we are projected to be 180 days from supply not meeting demand. That doesn't mean at the date of level 1 water emergency that supply doesn't meet demand. It means we are projected to be 180 days away from that. The plan, the drought contingency plan, calls for the actions to take effect at the date of the level 1 water emergency. With the city manager's recommendation, council shall approve the applicable provisions of the DCP, and I've got a slide on that later to go through the decisions that this council will be asked to make and decide. I do want to, and I'll probably say it a couple of times in this presentation, if we do enter level 1 water emergency, the goal is to ensure that we always have enough supply to meet demand. So the actions taken during a level 1 water emergency are all meant to ensure that we always have enough supply to meet demand. Essentially, the efforts taken are meant to push back that 180-day mark until we bring on new water supplies, until reservoirs refill, until we have more availability for water. Some of the key terms that we talk about quite a bit, and I just want to take a minute and do my best to explain them. So baseline usage, when you talk about allocation, curtailment percentages, we need to understand what the baseline of each of our customer classes are, because then we know how much we can cut back from that baseline. Baseline is the determined water usage of each customer class. The determination of that is meant to establish the allocation. Curtailment is the required water reduction from that baseline. So when you think about curtailment, think about, and it says it in the drought contingency plan, curtailment, the minimum amount is 5% from your baseline. Of course, it can be more, but we wouldn't do anything less than 5%. So if you have established baseline and the curtailment is 5%, then the goal is to utilize 5% less water from that baseline. That amount then results in what we call an allocation. So if you have your baseline, you deduct your curtailment amount, and you end up with your allocation. The allocation is simply put, that is the amount of water that each customer has been given the opportunity to utilize. Under level 1 water emergency, of course, the goal is, I said I'd say it a couple of times, but it's to reduce that demand curve so our supply always meets our demand. There's been a lot of efforts that CCW and city staff are doing. So a couple of things, we're bringing on new water supplies, that helps, but we're also working to reduce that demand curve in terms of effluent reuse. Those are items that will reduce our demand curve. Again, the goal is to always have enough supply to meet demand. We are working hard to increase communication, working with Chief Wade and his staff. We're establishing emergency contact numbers. We're understanding how each of these stakeholders, the measures they're taking and what the pain points will be in their operation. You know, I like to tell, we had a great conversation with the schools and the ISDs the other day. I don't know how to manage a school. It was great to understand what key points are important for them in managing school operations. Level 1 does increase mandatory conservation measures. We will go over that later in the presentation. Again, the goal is to reduce the total water demand, and then curtailment percentages will be established. Staff working with our professional consultants will establish those percentages, and then those will be brought back under the city manager's recommendation to this council for approval. And then all of that allows us to implement the true water allocations. The required city council actions are the acknowledgement of the level 1 water emergency, authorizing the customer class baselines, and the review of the curtailment percentages. Optional measures that can be taken by City Council would be adopting surcharges as established in the drought contingency plan. Council could implement service connection moratoriums. We have a detailed slide on that, so we will go over that. And council can also expand restrictions if needed. So when we talk about the drought contingency plan, what are the measures that immediately go into effect? Irrigation of all landscaped areas is absolutely prohibited. And again, I'd like to point out, this is just taken verbatim from the approved drought contingency plan. The use of water to wash any motor vehicle, motorbike, boat, trailer, or other vehicle is absolutely prohibited. And associated uses of water not related to business processes, which are discretionary, such as equipment washing, shall be deferred until the water emergency has been terminated. This is taken from page 16 of the drought contingency plan. One of the items that this council may approve are surcharges. Surcharges are a temporary rate to help manage the supply in times of drought. They are an economic incentive for people to utilize less water and to decrease that total demand. They are meant to encourage further conservation behavior. And the other effect of surcharges is they do offset revenue loss from reduced water usage as well. The surcharges that are established in the drought contingency plan, again, this is taken directly from the plan. For a residential customer, the surcharge would be $4 per 1,000 gallons over 7,000 gallons a month. So if a residential customer utilized 8,000 gallons, they would see an additional $4 per month on their bill. So it's not $4 for the first 7,000 gallons, it's an additional $4 for water above and per 1,000 gallons above the 7,000 gallons. Commercial customers are the same way. It's an additional $4 per 1,000 gallons over 55,000 gallons per month. And again, these totals are identified in the drought contingency plan. Large volume users that are non-exempt, they would pay an additional $12 per 1,000 gallons over 12.8 million gallons per month. Wholesale customers is an additional $4 per 1,000 gallons over 25% of the 12-month average prior to March of 2024. Again, this is how the plan is laid out in the current drought contingency plan. I mentioned the drought surcharge exemption fee in the previous slide. We do have a number of customers who participate in the drought surcharge exemption fee. Participating in that plan means that those customers provide funds to the city to support water supply projects. Those funds are provided when we are in drought and when we are not in drought. What those payments allow is for them to be exempt from surcharges. So a level 1 water emergency, those paying into the drought surcharge exemption fee would be exempt from surcharges. However, I want to clearly note, this does not exempt them from curtailment measures at all. The drought surcharge exemption fee is only about surcharges. So if we go into curtailment and allocations, that fee does not exempt any customer class from those allocations. So now I'd like to just talk to baselines a little bit. So our residential customers, and we have approximately 90,000 residential customers within the city of Corpus Christi. This does not include residential customers that are customers of our wholesale providers. This includes direct residential customers of Corpus Christi Water. Working with the team, the recommendation is for a baseline amount for residential customers to be 7,000 gallons a month. That is consistent with the surcharge total as well. This includes all meter sizes for all residential customers. Some residential customers may have a 3/4 inch meter, some may have a 1 inch meter. This includes all meter sizes. What you can see, the graph on the right is very telling. It's telling, but we all know it. The residential customers have continued to reduce their usage. We can certainly see it. The dotted orange line at the top is at 7,000 gallons per month. And then we have different curtailment percentages on the graph. The green line is a reduction of 10%. The blue is 20%, and then the purple is 30%. As you can see, our residential customer class has certainly done their job over the last couple of years since our drought restrictions have been in effect. We talk about our commercial customers. And CCW has 8,931 commercial customers. One thing to note about our commercial customers is the amount of water they utilize varies depending upon their business. You could have a retail business that uses small amounts of water. You could have a different type of business like a Walmart or a large store that may use more water. Restaurants use more water, bakeries and such. The baseline for commercial class will be established per meter size because of those variances in usage. In other words, it's unlike residential where we can give one number, we recognize that commercial businesses are all different. So we're going to establish a baseline on their meter size. The graph shown on the right is an example. It's an example of a commercial customer that has a 3/4 inch meter. Again, the other point, and excuse me, I didn't want to go too fast, but the other point is we also recognize there's seasonality with commercial businesses as well. Certainly water usage change. We all know that from the dashboard. Our high usages for the entire system is in the summer. Typically in the winter we have lower usages. So we want to recognize that with our commercial businesses. So we've built in seasonality. So let's go through the example on the right. Again, this is a 3/4 inch meter size. The dotted orange line is what would be the baseline. The black line, just like residential, that's billed usage. So you can see where commercial businesses have also decreased their usage. And again, this is just for 3/4 inch meters. That's the one example we have here. The green line would be a 10% curtailment, the blue is 20%, and the purple would be 30% curtailment. One thing to note, those steps might not be exact. For instance, the drought contingency plan calls for a minimum of 5% if we do curtail. Doesn't mean we wouldn't do 15%. I've got examples for 10, 20, and 30, but working with our modelers to ensure that we have enough water to meet demand, it may be 18%, it might be 21. I don't want us to think that these examples shown would be the only curtailment percentages that might be recommended. Large volume users. So this is a complicated class. The graph on the right is the aggregate of the large volume user class. So this is all of them combined. Again, we recognize, just like the commercial businesses, that the large volume users have seasonality in their businesses. So we're working to set up seasonal allocations. And one thing that I want to make sure I clarify, and same with commercial as well, that we will look at the usage from 22 to 24. Over those months, we would withdraw the lowest month in that period and essentially come up with 2 years worth of data to establish baseline. In other words, the goal is to eliminate the anomalies and to provide a clear direction for their baseline data. As you can understand, there's variance in our large volume users. So with those users, we will develop individual baselines for each of them so that we can track them properly. So when you look at commercial customers, there's 8,931. Large volume users, there's 23 total. So that includes those in the drought surcharge exemption fee and the ones not in the drought surcharge exemption fee. So what we want to do and what we have done is set up baselines for each of those customer classes. All of you know that's a huge volume of water. We've got to track that very carefully. You can see, again, the same format on the graph. We've got 10% curtailment shown, 20% curtailment shown, and 30% curtailment shown. Another major customer class of Corpus Christi water is wholesale users. The wholesale users baseline is clearly defined in the drought contingency plan. And in the drought contingency plan, it says the monthly allocations shall be a percentage of the customer's water usage baseline. The raw water or wholesale treated water customers' water usage will be computed on the average water usage by month for the previous 5-year period. This metric is taken directly from the drought contingency plan. When we think about our wholesale customers, there's 10 of them total. Those include Nueces County WCID number 4, which is in Port Aransas, Violet Water Service Corporation, Sampat Municipal Water District, South Texas Water Authority, Alice, Mathis, and Beeville as well. Enforcement is also clearly defined in the drought contingency plan. A violation under this article is a Class C misdemeanor. Any person who violates any provision of this article shall be subject to a fine of not more than $500 per violation per day. A second conviction results in authorization to discontinue service for at least one billing cycle. Again, I want to clarify, it provides for authorization to do that. It doesn't say it's mandatory to do it. This is what is established in the drought contingency plan. The process, if someone is issued a citation, think about, we issue citations for illegal irrigation today. Citation is issued. They go to court, they present the facts, and the judge makes a decision on how to proceed. There are requests for exemptions as outlined in the drought contingency plan. Per the plan, the application is to be submitted to CCW, and the applicant is to provide as much supporting information as possible to clearly state their situation. The determination is based on an emergency condition adversely affecting public health, sanitation, fire protection for the public or person requesting such a variance. Those exemptions can be submitted, and CCW would then review for a determination. And that brings us to our stopping point for, as the mayor said, for questions before we move on to the second half of the presentation.
Thank you, Nick. And we're going to do 2 opportunities for those who didn't or weren't here, 2 opportunities each council member at 5 minutes per opportunity, if you will. So questions, Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, maybe it was my misunderstanding, but I thought the drought exemption surcharge or drought exemption fee was only through stage 3, did not include anything to do with stage 4, what we're calling water emergency now. Is that incorrect?
That question has come up quite a bit. We've had our legal staff look at it, and the determination is that the drought surcharge exemption fee is applicable during level 1 water emergency.
So were we misinformed or misled the entire time as a council that it was only through stage 3?
I can't answer that. I know that personally, since I've been COO, even the last meeting or so, we've talked about that it is still applicable during level 1 water emergency. Previously, I can't speak to that, Councilman.
Okay, well,
We've gotten input from the legal department.
let me just say, I was under the impression that it only applied through stage 3.
Understood.
And not through water emergency. Miles, can you kind of speak to this?
What's your question, Councilman?
Okay, so I was under the impression that the water drought exemptions fee was only through stage 3, not through water emergency. Is that something that was intentionally done to mislead council, or was that just an oversight?
I never said that to you, Councilman.
Okay, I'm not saying you said that. I'm just saying this was the understanding that the drought exemption surcharge, or I don't want to call it surcharge, the drought exemption fee was only through stage 3. It did not apply to water emergency.
I'd have to look at the communication by which you got that understanding from. I know that it's not been our communication.
Councilman, we looked at this came up yesterday, it's come up before, and yesterday in one of our weekly or bi-weekly meetings with the large volume users, it came up again. So in the drought contingency plan, there's no language in here that would lead one to believe that. So it must have been from people talking about.
What was the original language from the agreement when the drought exemption fee was first initiated?
Yeah, Esteban would have to help answer that.
Wasn't there a specific agreement associated with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there were specific agreements put together for the drought surcharge exemption fee that was each of the industries signed or got into an agreement with. So yes, there was individual agreements, if that's your question.
Okay, what did it state in those individual agreements, is what I'm saying, because, I mean, we're talking about the agreements, not the drought contingency plan.
And that's where I would want to make sure the legal counsel weighs in on that, because it has to do with the contracts, or the agreement, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm asking Miles to what extent has he looked at, he and his team, all
Okay,
the
I'll
backup
I'll come
data?
back to the question.
Yeah.
Please review that back with us. And
Yeah.
just, I don't want to beat up on anybody or anything like that.
Right.
And if that's the case, that's the case. From my perspective, it had always been that this information, the drought exemption fee only applied to stage 3, not to stage 4, now water emergency. I just want some clarity on that. Can you look at the contracts associated with that?
Stage, and just so people, just so listening public and the council can follow this. So in the drought contingency plan, it says that a surcharge could be applied in the 3 stages, stage 1, 2, and 3. Then we know there's a level 1 and a level 2. There's nothing in the book that says that goes away with a level 1 and level 2. So that, yeah.
Well, no, the surcharge can be applied at any time based on,
Right.
Your recommendation and whether we vote on it.
Right.
I understand that. We've chose not to do that through stage 3.
Right.
But I was unaware that there was an exemption for, I understand there was exemptions through stage 3 for that drought exemption fee. And I understand that. That's what was kind of portrayed to us.
Right.
I just want to make sure that this is how it was portrayed to us based on those agreements. I just want to verify that that's the case.
Okay.
Okay, I'll let you go back and look at that, make sure you provide that information to us.
Yeah.
You said that the commercial was going to be based on the meter size, but you did not provide a graph to say what that was per meter size on your commercial side. Do you have that graph that you could provide us, or a spreadsheet or something like that, like a chart?
Sure. So what we've shown is just an example. The workshop is meant to provide input on the methodology. With our consultants, Carollo, we are working to put that together, and that would, of course, be provided to this body when we bring back recommendations and the city manager's recommendations for curtailment numbers, so that the baselines can be reviewed and everyone has good understanding of it.
Okay, and you're treating multifamily as commercial?
No, we've actually, we're looking at as a little bit differently, because it is, it's not a commercial business, so we're working with, under the recommendation to
It's like a
look
per
at,
unit.
look at those more as a residential. We've got to account for that a little bit differently than a commercial business.
Okay, so I'm assuming it's going to be by per unit, or is it square footage? What are you looking at for multifamily?
At the moment, I can't answer that right now, but we'll have that information. for
Okay,
you. And that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, yeah.
Okay. For wholesale, it seems like on your graph, there are the ones that are not doing as well in terms of reducing their usage versus reduction request, I guess. Just based on your graph there, what's the plan there to try and address that?
So we have been, and we continue to work with our wholesale customers so that they can understand the methodology, but then we need to be cognizant of is they are their customers, so the wholesalers will have to work with their customers to ensure that they meet the required allocations.
Okay, do you have as the baseline for wholesale customers going to be individually done based, you said from 2004? Now, you have some COVID years during that time frame, so are you looking at just a specific period of time, or?
So per the drought contingency plan, and again, for wholesale customers, it clearly spells out how to calculate their baseline. So it's a 5-year review and then a monthly average per month over that 5 years.
Okay. And then you have a 25%, but looking at the drought contingency plan, it had like certain levels at, shoot, I just lost my page on that.
There's a couple of tables in there. I think that's maybe what you're referring to.
A pro rata surcharge enforcement, 2 times normal level, 5% above the monthly allocation. And that's on the wholesale side, is that? No, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
There are target demand reductions for each of the levels.
Okay, if you can be a little more specific, when this comes back, I'm assuming we're going to have to vote on something on what the wholesale is going to look like in terms of how you're going to manage to reduce the volume there and hold just as much as any other customer class as to what that looks like.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the wholesale customers are a large water user, absolutely.
Okay, also, what I've been finding here, and this might be something we may need to modify within the drought contingency plan, I've experienced a lot of contractors damaging pipes and causing water loss. But, we make them pay for certain things, but there probably should be an escalation of that during a water emergency. That if there's damage to a pipe that makes us lose water, that there should be heavy fines associated with it.
So to clarify what's currently done, if a contractor would damage a city pipe causing a leak, and say it's a leak that CCW could repair, we would keep track of our man hours. We would estimate the amount of water that was lost out of the system, and then we would bill that contractor for the man hours and the water. And it's more of a legal question is whether if we can increase that by a percentage or not. I'm not sure.
Well, let me state that I have AT&T contractors putting in fiber optic cable, and they've broken at least 4 water lines in my neighborhood alone. And that includes the street aspect of it. And, honestly, it's frustrating that we're losing the water in the water drought, and they continue to just, not have any kind of semblance of understanding that we're in this water situation. Okay?
Miles just said that we could charge more if we elected to. We could increase pay.
Well, I mean, if it's a continuing process, I
Well,
think
not a
we need to
penalty.
do it.
What is it then? No penalty, but increased fees?
Yeah, we have a tort right to sue for all the damages that are attributable to the damage caused by the contractor. And to the extent that the water can be sold more, and it becomes more valuable because of the application of surcharges, that absolutely would be passed through to the damaging contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so again, can you clarify about the surcharge when we declare an emergency as far as the large volume users? Because on your page 11 or page 16, it says large volume users non-exempt, $12 per 1,000 gallons over 12,842. So are you saying that even when we declare an emergency, the ones that are already that are paying for the drought exemption fee of 31 cents per 1,000 gallons will be exempt? Is that?
The legal opinion is that they are exempt from surcharges. They are not exempt from curtailment.
Okay.
Right, so
Okay.
the allocation, they would be allocated water just like any other customer class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I also noticed that in one of the months, January of 2024, it looks like there was a drop by industry.
Yeah, so
Oh.
that's on page 20.
Yeah, 20. So, I just kind of quickly checked to see what was going on during that time.
I can tell
check?
you what was going on.
Yeah, okay.
So one of our highest water users was in the middle of a plant turnaround.
Yeah.
So they weren't producing, they weren't in production, so their water demand was diminished.
Okay, well, the other thing that I also read is that it was during the freeze, and Flint Hills had an oil spill during that time, during January of 2024. So they do the right thing, which is to shut down when there's an oil spill, or when there's an act of God, like this. A drought is an act of God that we can't help. So they can continue, after a while, can come back. So all I'm saying is that we keep excusing these large volume users, for everything else, but what we're going through is really an act of God. There's nothing we can do to, at this moment. We're trying, of course, we're, doing all that we can, but I don't, think that me personally, are going to be able to meet demand. I know that we have a lot of projects in the way, but at the same time, we also need them. And that's the other thing. I keep saying that, we go to all these cities and have these meetings, and we want to say that we're transparent, but they're not being transparent. Why is it that they're not here to tell us? I don't need to know what they need to do to cut back, but I need to know that they will be cutting back. And you have been assured that they will be cutting back when we hit the emergency level 1?
So as the city manager said, we are meeting with them about every 2 weeks because they have significant preparations they need to be able to do to accommodate the allocations that we will be recommending. All of them, I can honestly say, they are changing their business plans and working towards meeting that. I've always said, Councilwoman, I know how to run a water plant. I know how to run a water operation. Just like the schools, I don't manage a refinery or understand the specifics of how that operates. They are working through all of that to make sure they meet all of the requirements.
Okay, and so when we're talking about curtailment for our residents, we're talking about 7,000 gallons per month, which we already are using. We have already are below, which we're at 30% below from the 7,000 that we are allowed. Is that correct?
That is correct. So 7,000 is the baseline.
Right.
Then if we said, an example, curtailment was 10%, so it would be 7,000 gallons minus 700, which is their allocation would be 6,300 gallons per month.
Okay, so just so that we can appease, our residents, that we are already doing just about everything that we can to conserve water. And if we were to have to go to curtailment, I don't think it would affect most of us because we're already using 30% below what we are allowed to use, the 7,000 per gallon per month.
Right. My comment would be the majority of residents certainly achieve that, and they're doing so today. As in any class, there are outliers. Those exist.
Well, and as you pointed out, and I'm glad that you've got, you can see where our industrial customers are not. They're not able, or they're not willing, or they're not doing what residents have been able to do.
Well, and the data showed for the large volume users, that's the aggregate of all of them together. So I don't want to paint a broad picture, right? Because there's a lot of specifics going on there. There are a lot of details.
Right. So, all right, well, we'll continue to have that discussion. Now, I guess later on, we're going to decide at what point do we decide if we're going to do a water emergency? Are you going to,
Yeah.
are we going to decide that today? Like,
No, we won't decide it today, so we'll decide it together, but it'll be based on a model, based on those scenarios.
Right.
So the most recent were the 5 we showed, that A through E. But given the governor's intervention, and which resulted in the bed and banks permit for the Weston well field, and resulted in the Lavaca-Navidad River Authority not curtailing us by 10%, we're updating the scenarios to have a more accurate timeline. We need a little bit more data from the Weston well fields to see how much can we put into the river before we violate the management program or plan. And so hopefully by mid-April, we'll have an updated model, and that'll guide us. So we won't call a level 1 water emergency until we can see clearly when that 6-month timeframe kicks in.
Well, and I really do hope that the Lake Navidad is able to get more water because we're affecting them as well. I mean, you know, they were supposed to cut us off, you know, at least by 10%.
Right, by 10%.
Right?
Yeah, the only way they can get more water is through rain, so it's rain is it. So June is when we would go into a reduced use, according to the general manager yesterday that we spoke with. So June is when it'd fall to 40% Lake Texana.
Okay.
So right now, we're in reprieve. Can I just add a couple things to Councilwoman Campos's and Hernandez? So the percentages of curtailment would be equally applied across all customer classes. So if we recommend, say, a 20% curtailment, that means all classes, the residential, the commercial, the large volume, and the wholesalers, it's 20% across the board. So to Councilwoman Campos's point, you can see the residential customer is already there today. And you can see also then that the water savings essentially would come from large volume users and the wholesalers. And the wholesalers, just as a reminder, we have Brian Williams is here in the audience from San Patricia Water. And some of their biggest customers are large volume users. So just to point that out. And as Nick said, on the wholesale side, on the large volume user side, each of the entities has a customized, if you will, baseline because their water use is so divergent and they use so much. So we've worked with them for the past couple of months to develop modeling that shows what their baseline will be. The graph here is aggregate of them all, of all 23 large volume users. But they have business predictability. They know what their baseline is individually, and they know if they have to apply a 10, 20, or 30, not to say those are the only percentages. And so they know what they have to do. We're also mindful that today 70% of our water comes through the Mary Rhodes pipeline. And if something were to happen to the pipeline, there would have to be some type of almost a forced reduction in water use if there's a prolonged disruption in the pipeline. And so they're hard at work analyzing what would they have to do. So they know what they have to do, Councilwoman. We just can't speak to it because we don't know what 23 businesses would do, but they know they would have to do something. And they're not waiting around to figure that out. So they have their plans.
Okay.
They just haven't disclosed them with us. Okay?
All right.
Councilman Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor. Nick, thank you for the presentation. So, of the 23 large volume, well, first off, let me back up. You know, I can't remember, there's 3 senior citizens living in my household. I'm including myself in that one. You know, I mean, I can't remember the last time we used more than 4,000 gallons. So, I mean, I'm going to curtail, you know, if I curtail 20%, that's 800, that's 800 gallons. What's my penalty? Is there a penalty for me? Is there a surcharge for me? I mean, is there a, yeah?
No, because if you're using 4,000 gallons a month, you are under the baseline or the surcharge totals, so you wouldn't, surcharge would not be applied to your
Okay, I just want to make sure. I mean,
Yeah.
and of course, I'm not up for reelection, but I just think 7,000 is high. You know, I don't think anybody else would say that here, maybe Gil. But, I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think 7,000 is kind of high. Because, I mean, I don't think, even when I had a household of 5, I don't think we were probably at 6. So just, you know, something to consider. I mean, and I know I agreed to it when we put the plan together. So I'm just to be cognizant of that. I mean, and I've never had a pool either. So the other thing, and now you said of the high volume users, there's 23 of them. Is that 23 other than, does that include San Patricio? No?
No, they are a wholesale customer.
Okay, so, well, a couple of things, but yet, from some of their customers, they're assessed the drought exemption fee, correct?
That's correct. Some of their customers contribute to the drought surcharge exemption fee.
Okay, so I guess that's the thing. I just have I don't have a clear understanding of how, I mean, are they going to assess the same, or who's going to determine the baseline for San Patricio's customers?
So the wholesale provider will have to work with them.
Now, is that going to be under their policy, our policy?
Yeah, I'm gonna, the whole San Patricio Municipal Water District is gonna have to work with them to determine that, to
So
set
it's
those
their policy.
allocations.
It'll be their policy, but we've said it several times in meetings with them that they should follow the guidelines of our policy. They should have already adopted a drought management plan that's pretty consistent with ours. So what will happen, just using the specific case of San Patricio Water District, we would give them an allocation, we'd have a curtailment and an allocation, and then they have to determine how does their customers fit within that allocated water amount. So we're not going to tell them exactly how to do it, but they have guidelines from us that say this is the reduced amount, here's your allotment.
And I'm confident that, you know, they're going to be team players. I'm not trying to assess that they are, but that's some ambiguity for those of us that are sitting over here.
Right.
To be able to state what it is that they're going to do. And I would appreciate if we get that, you know, calculated right away, because I'm sure even the high volume water users are nervous. As I've said before, we want to provide certainty and, you know, a predictable regulatory environment. And if we don't know where we're at, so I think we need to get that done right away. So, you know, there's the narrative that paying this nominal fee, and I'm just being facetious by saying the word nominal, allows exemption from a penalty. And maybe we do it, and, you know, if we were to calculate what would that penalty be, because, you know, right now we have I know we have more than $30 million that has been accumulated through the.
Yeah, approximately 30 million, yeah.
And so I don't know, I think from a perspective, because that's the argument, oh, well, they're paying not to, which I think is really kind of an oxymoron. They're paying now so they won't have to pay a penalty, you know? And so I think there's a way that we determine what the delta is, that there are responsible partners who pay the exemption fee and go into and follow through with curtailment. Well, then they're still paying a fee of which they were never assessed a penalty. Do you know where I'm going?
Yeah, I mean, so it's important to note that they're paying that all the time.
I agree. I'm with you.
Whether the reservoirs are full or empty.
I agree. I just want to be able to argue to the naysayers, they're still paying more money, you know? And I go back to, and I've said it ad nauseum now, I said it to somebody yesterday, I don't understand, well, like Gil says, my mother is subsidizing Valero because we pay $35 a month, and, you know, a high volume water user is paying upwards of $1 million a month. So I don't get that math of how if a high volume water user is paying more than $1 million a month, and how I'm subsidizing it with for $30, you know, and especially when there's only 23 of them, you know. So
yeah, and it's 23 connections.
23
I do want to clarify that. Camille corrected me. It's 23 connections.
Okay, that provides clarity. And then if you could let us know how many of those also or somewhere or another, a footnote of how many of those are in San Pat. And then of all those connections, how many of those are exempt from the surcharge? I guess I'll have to wait for my other questions. Thank you.
Councilwoman Paxson.
Thank you. So if I look at pages 10, 12, 14, and 16, they each indicate a target percentage that is triggered by each stage of drought for a reduction threshold. For instance, stage 1 is 5%, stage 2 on page 12 shows 10%, stage 3 is 15% goal reduction, and ultimately a level 1, which previously was a stage 4, is a 5% target. And then you flip over to page 28, 29, I think the table's actually on 29, it tallies those percentages, and then ultimately says under a level 1 or level 2 water emergency, our target reduction is 25 to 50%.
I'm glad you asked that because I had that same question. It was baffling me earlier. And so that 5%, it's a minimum of 5% curtailment. So we couldn't enact a curtailment of 4.5% or 3%. And then the other percentages that you mentioned are listed as targeted reduction levels. So in other words, those are essentially goals. And then that 5% references a minimum curtailment. So we can always do more, and in times we will have to, so supply meets demand. But we can't do less if we implement any curtailment.
So I think there's 2 to 3 very concrete items here that need to be, if we're going to do an amendment, then we should clarify this. The first being, if you add up on each of those pages, those respective stages or percentages that we're trying to reduce, that's 35% total reduction in our water system by the time we have arrived at a level 1. Because you don't go into a level 2 and say we're already reducing 5%. Now we're going to try to reduce 10, or you don't go to level 1 emergency where we just came out of trying to reduce 15%, and we're only going to try to reduce 5. So these are meant to be assumed to collect, to add on each other. So that would mean by the time we're at the point where we're declaring a level 1, our total system reduction target has been nearly 35% if we're to follow these stages accurately.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm taking notes. I think it's one of the things to remember, just to clarify, is under drought stages 1, 2, and 3, there's recommended measures, which everyone's following, but there's also optional measures to achieve those goals. Like the city manager said, council could have chosen to enact surcharges in those other drought stages, and those measures would have, I think they may have provided more incentive to hit those goals or those targets. I just want to clarify that. So,
from what I see, our drought contingency plan is written very. It's articulating all of the principles mainly through written communication. What I discovered was a lot of other states across Texas actually convert each of these sections at the end of their section, or maybe there's one area where all the sections are consolidated and they're put into tabular form. And so it takes something that's very paragraph structured and adds a clean, concise table. This is the stage, this is the target, these are the means of reduction, and here's how we're going to follow through on those, and these are the exemptions. So it's a very clear format to arrive at each of those goals. I think that while we're opening the drought contingency plan, if we can put things a little more linear and more precise, then that helps all of us. God forbid, but if we go back into a situation like this is something that I think would be very meaningful in our weekly updates. As you know, in stage 3, our goal is 15%. Here's how we're doing on that based on actuals from billing. And so can you tell me from that 5% on page 16, jumping up to the 25 and 50% on page 29 in the table, can you help me find the source for that? I see that on page 27, there's a little bit of description, but I guess what I'm trying to say is if I'm not from Corpus and I'm not familiar with the drought contingency plan and I'm trying to make way in the book and I know we're going into level 1, what am I doing?
So on page 16, it's the quote is, during a level 1 water emergency, curtailment will be required and may start at 5% or greater reduction of total water demand. So again, when curtailment, that percentage reduction is approved, The goal of that is to ensure that we have enough supply to meet our demand when we reach that 180-day mark and beyond. So on page 16, they're saying that curtailment may start at 5% or greater. And that's where I go back to, we really couldn't enact it to start at 4% or 3%. It's a minimum of 5%.
Sure. I guess I'm looking for citations on where we got this 25 to 50% in the table associated with a level 1 emergency. I don't seem to find the citation. I just see a percentage there, and it doesn't add up to the collective.
Yeah, I'll let Esteban speak to that, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
So, yes, so when we were developing the amendments or the drought contingency plan, we worked with different consultants to look at different cities across the state of Texas, Austin, SAWS, San Antonio Water System, Dallas, Fort Worth, and we, working with our consultants, came up with those targets. And they are targets, and those targets have existed in the DCP or the drought contingency plan for many, many variations of this plan. And again, they're targets to try to achieve, and depending upon the conditions, they may change. So, and it also adds to wanting to get compliance from our residents, compliance from our different customer classes to achieve those goals. And those goals are we establish, again, by looking at different drought contingency plans throughout the state.
So reviewing the other contingency plans around the state, which I'm all for, that's how you come up with a good plan, is you look at what's working. What did we use within our system as data to drive those numbers as realistic targets to prevent a loss of pressure, et cetera? What did we use in our system so that it's in here?
What did we use in our system? We looked at previous demands. We looked at different demand graphs. We looked at how many connections we had. We then, talking with our consultants, they had all the information from previous variations of the DCP. They had connection or data from our demand usage or customers to try to make sure that we fit in those targets and they were reasonable and that we could achieve, and what we could do with the other requirements, meaning the restrictions, both the optional and the restrictions within the DC, within different stages to achieve those goals throughout the different stages.
So 2 questions. First, what was the trigger point that said that these numbers is what's going to accomplish our goal? And 2, confirm for me that these were numbers that you professionally can say confident they're attainable from all of our ratepayers, all the classes.
Again, going back to what we, looking at best management practices to try to make those, setting out those restrictions to achieve those goals, both within the DCP at different stages and adding additional optional measures if council choose to try to achieve those different targets. And it's,
Nick, maybe you can jump in. I think this is very water system specific questions.
Yeah, and I do, Councilwoman, I like where you're going with this. So there's a definite difference between what's going on at level 1 water emergency with curtailment and allocation and what's going on previously with demand target reductions. When we're at a level 1 water emergency, we're working with our professional consultants. We're identifying what an appropriate curtailment percentage across all customer classes would achieve a result where supply always meets demand, because that's the goal. And that's why earlier I said specifically it could be 18%, it could be 23%. We don't want to overstate that. Of course, we obviously don't want to understate it either. When you're in the early stages of drought, those are demand targets and reduction levels. I think what Esteban was saying, that's just best management practices to establish those levels at each of those stages of the drought.
And I appreciate you. Thank you, Esteban. I'm trying to be very specific because as policymakers, and that's what this book is a policy on how do we protect our water system. I need to see the citations. Show me where the number you're asking us to deduct or to certify. This is what we're looking for our curtailment amount. I need to see the citations that say baseline, our goal, and this is that percentage, and this is why we're bringing it to you. One, it's attainable, and two, it's going to fix the problem.
So curtailment, absolutely, you'll be able to see the data and how we come up with those curtailment percentages so that we avoid a point where our demand does not, or supply does not meet our demand. So again, that's a specific calculation, right?
Okay. Councilman Roy.
Okay, thanks for the presentation so far. I've got to my head around a couple things here, but I just have a real simple question first. Is that traditionally, what month is the highest rainfall that we've normally experienced?
So sure, I can definitely answer that. So, and I'm going to talk in our watershed. So it's May and June. June, typically we get like 3 inches in the watershed. And then after that, historically the highest month is September. So it's the tropical weather season.
Okay.
But that 3 inches, that's not much at all, right? But that's up there on some of the highest.
And I mean, even if we had a tropical, you know, if we had a tropical depression or whatever you want to call it, we're down so far right now, it'd probably take more than just one tropical event.
Multiple events, and the experts have told us they really need to be sequential. So the first one would saturate the ground, because remember the soil conditions are so dry, would saturate the ground, and then a follow-up one would provide more inflows into the reservoirs.
So my next question, or I'm trying to follow this, is when you take a look, and I think this is what I've seen, that the residents and industry have already lowered their water intake as a whole. Wouldn't you say that? I mean, if you take a look at and you go back pre-COVID, and I'm just going, and you kind of look at what our consumption was there, I don't want to use COVID numbers just because I think that's an outlier. But if you go ahead and you kind of track where we're at overall, I mean, we've got people on the residential side that have certainly cut back. I mean, if you're not watering your grass, you can't water your foundation, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, and as long as you haven't increased your population in your house, most of us have already cut back. Isn't that a fair?
I think the numbers show it, yes.
Okay, and I think industry also, because I mean, looking and tracking it in terms of where industry was at overall, when you look at pre-COVID numbers and you look at some of those other outliers, and then you look at now, overall there has been a reduction with industry. Is that correct?
I would say within certain industry are certainly working very hard to reduce, and you could look at the numbers and show that downward trend.
There has been a downward trend. It hasn't spiked up, and it hasn't maintained. So my question is that when we look at, when you talk about the minimum of 5% or whatever, are you talking about, so if I'm, first of all, it's hard to compare industry to industry because there's some of our industrial partners, depending on what product they're producing, number one, they take less water, and number two, overall water affects the way they operate differently than somebody that is really tied to water based on their the product that they're producing. I mean, like, you know, so when we do this and we take a look at the baseline, just like with residents, are we going to say, okay, what if they're already meeting? What if you have somebody that has reduced their water intake by 35% already? And are you going to come back across the board and say, okay, everybody's got to now do 8%? Are you going to hit even residents? If I'm sitting at 4,000, and it sounds like we've got an answer on the residential side. If I'm sitting at 4,000 and you're allowing me to go up to 7,000, I'm not going to take an additional hit, right?
That's correct.
Okay, are we going to do the same thing on industry side?
So if you look at the large volume users, so we're looking at a period of 2022 to 2024. It's a 3-year period. So again, there were a number of measures that we know were taken into account in 2025. So we're looking at those preliminary numbers to help determine the baseline.
Okay, so I want to understand that if you have somebody, if you have an industrial partner that has already done a really good job, and let's just say we set the first goal at 8%, and they've exceeded that, would they have any additional financial?
So, right, so it goes back to the baseline, which is one reason why we're meeting with the customer classes to determine the fairest approach. And in the industry has agreed that if we look at the years of 2022 to 2024, that would be a pre-water reduction approach so that no one's being penalized for the great work they've already done.
So I understand that.
Okay.
So I guess I'm asking you to answer the question. If they've already exceeded that, would they have any additional financial burden?
The answer is no, Councilman. They wouldn't have to reduce any more water.
Okay.
Similar to the residential side, that example there, if they're already below 7,000, they don't have to cut any more in usage.
Yeah, I'm talking about industry.
I know, I'm just using that as an example. So industry, same thing. Once they have their baseline, if the baseline is already below if their use is already below that baseline, then they won't have to cut any more.
Okay, thank you. That's my biggest thing I was trying to wrap around my head.
And I'm sorry I didn't understand your question, Councilman. Thank you.
That's it. That's all I had.
Councilman Scott.
Good stuff. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Peter. Hey, if there's a way, and the industry's in the back of the room, they have a great story to tell about their reduction in water usage over the last 20 years. And they don't calculate it based on total consumption, right? Because if the total is 10 million gallons a day and then a new entity comes on at 10 million gallons a day, then it just looks like nobody's conserving. You know, it's twice as much usage, but they can articulate, especially the oil and gas industry, how they profoundly reduce the amount of water it takes to create a barrel of oil. And it's actually a very good success story that we should share with the world, that not only we're supplying the world with gas and airplane fuel, but we're doing it caring about the industry. I mean, caring about the environment. So, and they're in the back of the room, they can probably provide that to you. I'm sensitive to the conversations with our wholesale water providers. I would think there'd be a way to go. If I'm a wholesale water provider and all I'm doing is supplying water to residences, then that's one model, right? But if I'm a wholesale water provider and 50% of my sale is to industry, then that has a very different impact on how we treat them. And I would give them the opportunity to come back to us and use our model with our large water users and say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. I got 50% of my sales are the same industries that you all have. And then we want to plug that model back in. Because I think we treat, especially San Patricio Municipal Water District, I think this might burden them in ways that we're not burdening local large water users. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, be nice to me, because it's before noon.
I certainly understand what you're saying. The approach is what was outlined in the drought contingency plan, and then of course, if we look at, we can look at a million different scenarios.
Well, okay, thanks. Because I do think that
but I understand what
we're
you're
working
saying.
with the local large water users, and we've come up with this concept that's, what'd you say, 22 to 24?
Yeah.
I guess based on quarterly usage, because it's, and if we took that model and allowed our friends across the county line to plug that in and then come back to us and say, realistically, using the model you all are using, here's what we think our allocation should be. And I don't know, can we do that if you're telling me it's written in stone in our current DCP? Can we have a conversation and change that if they come back with a different number?
So we'll certainly have the conversation and continue to have the conversation with San Pat Municipal Water District. And I really appreciate Brian being here. I didn't know he was here.
Well, I'm just thinking about how hard they've tried to help us in other areas. And, I just think it's a fairness issue. So thanks for trying. If you'd have that conversation. And if you can't, then I would let us know. And if you can, let us know. I just think that's the way to go. I appreciate the concept that COVID was an outlier. My question is, should we do some of this before we reach level 1? Some of our allocation or surcharges, and I guess you can't unless we amend the DCP, right? You'd have to.
So you could enact surcharges because, as the city manager said, that's it's applicable in other drought stages as well. So that council could make a decision on that and move forward on the surcharges. The curtailment is certainly legally not recommended until we hit a level 1 water emergency.
All right, I get it. It's probably good public policy, terrible politics, but I get it. Also, exemption fees. If we have this conversation again, would it be possible? I wrote exemption fees go up closer we get to further along, closer to level 1 emergency. Is that a negotiated agreement? I guess they'd have to negotiate that, open up the exemption fee agreements, or they're voluntary, I guess, right? My point is that it's 31 cents, but you could have a conversation that when it gets closer to level 1, it goes from 31 to 35 to 40.
Yeah, right now, there's no policy that says they go up, Councilman, the fixed. We updated the 25 cents to 31 cents.
Correct.
Recently, but it's not it could be if we wanted to do that, but.
Yeah, I'm sure someone
fixed rate.
just fell out of the chair, but I just thought it's an interesting philosophy.
Actually, it can go up by CPI. That's built into the agreements.
Well,
and we have
maybe
increased
going
it
up
from
anyhow.
25 to 31 cents by CPI.
All right, I'll move on.
But it doesn't go up by drought stage. And I did want to, since I got asked the question, I want to address Councilman Hernandez's question real fast, and I think it's kind of relevant to what you're asking here. Is that since you're looking at, Councilman Hernandez, since you're looking at the agreement, I think why I know where you got that misimpression from. The last, in paragraph 3 of the agreement, the last sentence says, however, this agreement does not prevent the city from allocating water supply in the event of an emergency water shortage condition as defined by TCEQ regulations or by City Ordinance 031355, or as may be required by Texas Water Code Section 11.039, or required by any other state laws and regulations. And that provision specifically allows us to sit down with the large water users and directly cut them back, potentially, maybe even going so far as to cut them off if they don't exceed water usage, or if necessary, to be able to comply with DCEQ regulations to maintain system pressures throughout the entire system. So what it does recognize is that the exemption fees are not going to apply during the emergency. However, when you only have 23 connections, you can work individually with that small a number of users and restrict their usage on an individual basis, which you can't do with 30,000, a group of 30,000, and individually under 11.039, which it says pro rata reduction. You can directly reduce. You have more hammers that you can use with that smaller number of users.
Got it. Okay, last couple of questions. Hey, so the residential reduction in usage was really because of what? What do you think? Just not watering yards? It's really interesting that, because we're all still taking showers and we're all using the restroom. Is that what we think it is?
Yeah.
Sure, that's fine.
So I got to give a shout out to our communication and working with the council and working with the people through this drought that we're in right now, getting the communication out. We've been hearing it through council and multiple councils that we needed to get more out there to the people. Right. We're at Earth Day, Bay Day. We're at different events, passing out water conservation, drought contingency information. We've had ads on TV, radio, billboards, so that we can get compliance, we can get actions. And yes, it's coming from a lot of the best management practices that we promote through the city and our entire community.
And all of our rate classes had to do the same thing, right? Commercial, industrial, large, they all had to stop watering the landscape. Yeah, so everybody's playing by the same rules, or they should be, and I think they are. All right. In commercial, same thing, I guess, that they just quit because their usage went down, right? And so I guess the same thing, they're not watering the landscape. That's interesting how impactful that is. It just tells me how much water we use watering the landscape.
I mean, there are a number of landscape accounts and landscape meters. Of course, they're no longer in use, but when they're in good times, there's a lot of irrigation and landscaping happening, right? Think about ball fields and large things like that.
Last thought, shout out, I'll just throw this at our state and federal friends. It would seem to me that some of the stuff that we would like to happen doesn't happen, especially in our industrial base, just because of sheer cost. Although we're getting ready to make it cost effective. But it would sure be interesting if the state of Texas had some sort of grant program recognizing the water impacts and the impacts on the environment to allow our industrial partners to retrofit some of their operations to reduce water usage. The concept of closed loop systems. I'm not saying we should be the grant, but it would seem to me that if I'm in Austin and I care about our industrial base, but I also care about reducing water usage, they would set up some sort of grant system to help our industrial partners spend the money necessary to reduce usage. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for bringing that up, Esteban. I think that it is a lot of everyone doing their part that really moves the needle, and that proves it. Because a lot of times people don't realize, maybe not washing, I know I'm very cognizant to it, not washing as much, right, clothes and what have you at home. I mean, some of the things I've seen that y'all have put out, or that, yes, our communications department has put out, I think it really, really does make a difference. But I'm gonna add one thing, and that is, and it kills me every time, go to a restaurant and the water automatically comes. We need to instill something. I don't know what needs to be done, but let me know, because I'm ready to bring it forward, for restaurants to hold off on water. If you want water, especially if you go to a bar, some people they want a glass of water with their glass of wine or what have you, and some don't. Or if you go to a restaurant to eat, some people don't want that. They want their soft drink. And so I know it's an automatic in terms of hospitality, but I think, to Councilman's point, it would make a big, big difference if everybody the restaurants kind of did their part. And I asked them one time, I said, what do y'all do with this water? That there are 4 glasses that are basically full. And he said, we throw it out. And I said, would you please put it in a bucket, put it in plants or the grass outside or whatever. But that goes to show, the mindset, and I understand they're business owners, but I don't think we have emphasized enough, and I really believe that it would make an impact. I really, really do. It's a lot of glasses of water. So how do we do that? Number 2, how does this plan integrate with our long-term supply strategy regarding desalination, groundwater, et cetera? And then third question, what do you see success looking like 6 months from now if this was implemented and implemented correctly? And I know that's kind of a tough one, but just give me your best shot there. Those are the 3.
So first, Mayor, in regards to the restaurants, that is a recommendation in the Water Conservation Plan, which that committee is working very hard. We had another good meeting last week. We're working hard to complete that plan and bring it to council for approval. Upon adoption of that plan, it certainly would allow for enhanced communication for things like, not serving glasses of water at restaurant as a best management practice. Your next question was, how does this plan integrate into our overall water supply strategy? So just to reiterate, our strategy is to diversify the portfolio. We feel strongly, and we've been making significant progress in that manner, with the addition of groundwater supplies, the use of reuse and seawater, in addition to our surface water supplies, that our supply portfolio will be sustainable going forward in the future. So as a way to better handle 5-year droughts, significant droughts of this nature going forward. I'm not sure if that answered your question or if that was the intent of your question.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what does success look like in 6 months? My answer to that question is that we avoid level 1 water emergency. We continue to bring on our new supplies. That's both our groundwater projects, the reuse projects, of which we're so glad to have great partners like Valero and Flint Hill involved in that reduces our demand. And then we're moving forward with seawater projects so that we get to that point where we have a diversified supply that we can properly manage.
Great. Thank you. Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, back to some of the statements that Councilmember Barrera and Councilmember Scott said about it being, more or less equal to everyone. I totally disagree with that. For one, we have this drought exemption for the 31 cents per 1,000 gallons for heavy water users, heavy industrial water users. Yet that's not being, that's not offered for residents. So anyway, so no, we're not equal. The other thing that I wanted to say was it had been brought up before by Dr. Araiza on that 31-cent exemption fee and how much it's collected. Councilman Barrera touched on that with the exemption on this one particular customer, I want to say it was Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, but I could be wrong, that we would collect $116,250 per month on the 31-cent exemption surcharge. But if we were to just approve this surcharge that we're possibly considering, let's say, the $12 or the $6 in stage 3, we'd actually would be collecting $2,172,600 per month without restrictions. The 31-cent surcharge does limit it to only new water sources. If we were to eliminate that and we were to just go with just the regular surcharges, we would actually be gaining more money, and plus that money would be available for all projects like fixing leaks, fixing infrastructure, and things like that. So I just wanted to point that out. The other is
Councilwoman, if I could just speak to that.
Sure.
Because I think you made some important points. So we need to remember that we're only issuing surcharges when council approves surcharges. So when you're looking at totals over periods of months, this body has never approved surcharges previously. So it's hard to where the drought surcharge exemption fee is all the time.
Okay, well, I meant the drought exemption surcharge
But
fee.
the surcharges, which would be other times to collect surcharges per this book, the council has to approve surcharges on all customer classes.
Right, okay. So I meant the exemption surcharge drought fee. So we're clear. The 31 cents drought exemption surcharge.
Right, but I think some of the other totals for comparison, you're utilizing the numbers in the book, which is only when council approves surcharges
Right.
across all
If we were to go, yes.
classes.
Yes, for all classes.
Where the other exemption fee is continuous.
In place. Yeah, I know. That's why we want to end it. And that's why we have a Fair Water Amendment petition going on. Okay, so then the other was, someone asked, can you point, to a specific part of the DCP that incentivizes exempt large volume water users to curtail use by the percentages set in the DCP plan? That's one question. The other is also, is there an enforcement mechanism in the DCP to ensure large volume users are curtailing the amounts that we need for them to do so? So those are the two questions.
The first question, I think the question was incentive regarding curtailment.
Yes.
In my opinion, the evidence there is the agreement with Valero and Flint Hills, who are expending significant amounts of capital money supported by their executive branches of their businesses to be able to reduce their demand. I can't speak enough about those contracts. Those contracts are going to help our
Yeah.
situation long into the future. We're very proud of them. In regards to enforcement, and I didn't say this earlier, but I want to say, across all classes, our goal is compliance. It's not citation. That's how CCW works. We want to ensure compliance. We've been meeting with those users on a every other week basis. Of course, the number of their connections are much more limited. There's a smaller amount of numbers, so we can review them more closely. We've opened up lines of communication. In other words, I know who to call, I know who to talk to, staff knows who to call if they're seeing trends that aren't meeting what we expect, so that adjustments can be made to ensure compliance.
Can you point that out in the DCP plan where it states all that? Where it states about the enforcement?
Well, there is an enforcement section in there, right? And then Miles quoted, he provided an ultimate enforcement reference to where, just earlier when answering Councilman Hernandez's question about shutting off water. That would be the ultimate enforcement.
Okay, and it is part of the DCP plan? It is in there, Miles?
I think it's part of 11.039, is that, Miles, right?
Let me see. What page is that on our DCP?
Pro rata distribution.
Huh?
Yeah.
Pro rata distribution, 11.039 of the Texas Water Code.
Yeah. So that's the ultimate reference, is the Texas Water Code, which is 11.039, which is referenced on page 33 under pro rata allocation, Councilwoman.
Page 33.
And then the other, and thank you, Esteban, the other enforcement section is page 25.
I see 21 of 23.
So on page 33 under pro rata allocation, it references Texas Water Code
Okay, hold on, let's see.
11.039.
Is it at the end? The corpse was unattached. Where? Let me see. Okay. Okay. Pro rata at the triggering criteria. Okay.
Then enforcement is on page 25.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear and everyone is on the same page. How much time do I have? 40-something seconds. Okay, and a moratorium, how would we implement a moratorium? I mean, obviously, we don't have water, and I constantly hear about the car washes and things of that nature. I also wanted to touch base on what are we going to do, like during the summer, for our residents that use the splash pads and things like that to cool off. I don't know, is that further down the
It's the
discussion?
next segment. It's actually the very next slide, once we
Okay.
get through this period.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, and Miles, I wanted kind of understand this a little bit better because I'm not opposed to the drought exemption or a drought surcharge exemption fee. We've made that deal. It's important. It's also in line on section 12.1, paragraph K. It says the large volume industrial customer paying the drought surcharge exemption fee established by section 159.1 is exempt from city curtailment of water during reservoir system stages 1, 2, and 3, except where curtailment is required by Texas Water Code section 11039 or required by applicable state laws and state regulations. So when I say state, and it's the way our drought contingency plan is written, there's no curtailment for them anyway, right?
There is under level 1 water emergency.
No. I'm saying under stage 1, 2, and 3.
That's correct. Yeah, you're correct.
Okay, so whether they pay the exemption fee or not, there's no curtailment on their part because it's the way our drought contingency plan is written, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that's one aspect. So the reason why I had this understanding that in section 4, under water emergency, there is no penalty for them not doing curtailment. And I understand that you have phone numbers and that you can call them and say but are you looking to cut them off if they don't follow your rules? Are you going to shut off their water? I don't think so. Right? I want, and I'm not saying they're not going to be good partners or anything like that, but there's always some outlier, that it's kind of like me paying for a monthly fee. So if I get pulled over speeding, that okay, I paid my monthly fee, so I'm not going to pay this fine because I was speeding. Kind of like in stage 4 water emergency or level 1 water emergency. So I just want to make sure you understand there is no penalty for not meeting the curtailment requirements. So that's why I was surprised when you said that this included exemption into stage 4 or water emergency, because that's when you really need the curtailments. That's when you need the penalties. That's when you need the not only the front end, the carrot and the stick, but I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm just saying it looks pretty stupid on our part as a city writing regulations that we exempt people from when we actually need it in stage 4 or water emergency.
Yeah, no, I understand, Councilman. I think the key, and Miles, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the key is the reference to 11.0391, which provides the water supplier many authority to do things such as cut back water provisions for water. It provides for curtailments, allocations, and essentially, if things get really bad, it will allow for the water provider to close valves.
Okay, but we don't. I understand the state regulation, and you're probably going to have it, lined out what those state regulations apply to, because I don't have it in front of me to read it out. But you're going to have those in there so we have a clear understanding of what those are. I just think by the way this reads, it states stages 1, 2, and 3, not water emergency. And if it's a play on words, maybe we need to make the adjustment on that. I'm not saying our partners are going to do that. I know they've been working really hard. I know the contracts for the wastewater reuse from Valero and Flint Hills are important things. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of how we maintain a certain regulation. And to say that those things only apply to water emergency when it doesn't call it out in paragraph K, if you're going to have that kind of gray area that you can ride a bus through, I think you need to rewrite that. Does that make sense?
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so I said, this is more me kind of chastising you guys, not industry. It's not their fault. You understand what I'm saying? We did this.
I guess so. I know what you're saying with the gray area. Totally
You
understand.
could drive a bus through that.
Another way to look at it is it clearly says in stages 1, 2, and 3. It clearly leaves
1, 2,
out
and
level
3.
1 water emergency and level 2 water
Exactly.
emergency.
And then also the
and I
way
think
our
we all
DCP is written.
Understand that.
Right, and all the way our DCP is written, it doesn't even matter if we charge them that surcharge anyway, or not. They're they're still exempt.
I do want to separate surcharges from curtailment.
Well, it says drought surcharge exemption fee. So I'll use that specific word. Whether and it's voluntary, and I appreciate that they're paying for it, honestly, I really do. I just think, whether they paid it or not, they would still have the same privileges. Am I wrong?
No, I don't understand the last statement. Whether they paid it or not.
Whether they paid it or not, the way the DCP is written, there's no curtailment on their part through stages 1, 2, and 3.
The large volume customers paying the exemption fee.
No. You're missing what I'm saying.
I know.
Whether they pay it or not. Let's say there's no drought exemption, drought surcharge exemption fee.
Right.
By the way the DCP is written, they do not have to curtail in stage 1, 2, or 3.
Right, nobody does.
Exactly.
No customer classification does.
Because we're not putting curtailments in there.
Right.
It's just, I take it back.
goals.
There is one thing.
Yeah.
Anything where you're watering outside your property, that is a curtailment.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're right. We need to look at that section. I'm not sure why it's written that way, that section K on page 24. It doesn't really add much value because, as you said, there is no curtailment for any customer class in stages 1, 2, and 3. It's generally confusing, I think, so we might want to look at just striking that out. Just FYI. We'll work with Nick on it in the council.
Yeah, I've got the notes.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
I want to clarify something really quick. I wasn't here when they called the roll, and Councilman Cantu is not here because his father had a stroke and he is on life support, so we need to know that because he would not have missed this meeting. One quick question. I was really concerned that there's nothing in there, Gil brought it up, about multifamily, because we've got so many apartments. Is there nothing in this whole thing? I read it. I didn't see it. Why would that be with all the apartments we've got?
Oh, in the document itself?
Yeah.
I can't speak to why there wasn't mention to.
So what are we gonna do?
multifamily. So what we're going to do is we're working with Carollo, our consultants, to address multifamily differently than the commercial class.
Okay.
Currently, in terms of our billing situation, multifamilies are part of our commercial customer class. So we recognize that it's a different situation.
So you're going to bring something back that
Yeah.
shows us different, just making sure.
Yeah, the baseline would be different.
I think we've had some really good questions.
Absolutely.
I think they've covered a lot, so thank you.
Yeah, there'll be, Councilwoman, that's a good point. So apartment complexes are included in all these measures. It could be they have a commercial meter if it's a big complex, but some of these apartments have individual meters, and that could be a residential. They have individual meters, I guess, right?
Some do, yeah.
So some are treated as a residential customer classification, others are commercial. But we might need to put just something in just so people know they're included as well.
Okay. Councilwoman Paxton, and then we're going to go on and finish the last 3, I think, sections, is it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you. Nick, can you tell me what percentage of overall volume is the residential customer class?
Overall volume of our water usage. One second, Councilwoman. I'm going to let Camille answer it as I can't find my notes right now.
Sorry. Camille Terrace, Assistant Director, CW. 14%.
14%. And approximately how many million gallons a day do you think that is?
Million gallons, I can't calculate. It's around 5.5 billion gallons a year. I would have to do the conversion. I can't do that.
So
in
if
my
our
head.
peak use is 135?
Huh?
So if our peak use in the summer is 135, how much of that would be residential at 14%?
14% of 135, so you're looking at, give me 1 second.
18.9.
18.9, yeah.
And that's assuming the average of about 6,000 a day, 6,000 gallons. There's outliers, there's less, but about 6,000.
Yes,
And that's 18.
18 MGD.
So at 100% use, they're only 14% of our system use,
Yes,
right? Okay, so to me, the 6,000 to 7,000 parameter for that class, I apologize if I indicated that incorrectly or inaccurately, but what I was trying to communicate was 6 to 7 is fair to me. That's about quality of life. It's such a small percentage of our water system that we should be invested in finding ways to enable our ratepayers in our residential class to have a good quality of life. We got to remember, they were watering their grass, they were washing their cars at home, their kids were playing with the garden hose. Like, that's quality of life. So I think that those numbers are still fair. Our community has really gotten behind reducing use, and that's why it's so low now. So I wouldn't favor reducing that at all. The multifamily, I agree with the other council members. I think that needs to be per unit on a residential base or something of the equivalent. And then I'll leave that on that. As far as the slide that said that there's provisions that repeated use to not meet curtailment amounts could result in discontinued service, I don't think that should ever apply to a residential. I think that's a health and safety issue. That's my 2 cents on that one. But what I don't see in any of this, and Peter, this is a little bit directed to you because we have had so many conversations on it. What I don't see in any of this presentation is a table form of baseline information. So we have, 23 connections in our large volume user class? Mm-hmm. That's it? 23 connections?
The large volume.
So even though they're in a customer class, there's such a small number.
Yeah.
What I don't see is what I was told would be at this workshop, is this is their water consumption demand. This is their alternative source efforts. This is their immediate versus long-term realistic cutback amounts. And those slides considered, this is our real and new attainable baseline. I don't see that in this presentation, and I'm a little frustrated that after all the discussions, it's not here. So if I could call up slide 22, no, I'm sorry, slide 20.
Yeah, we have the aggregate, Councilwoman, but we do have individual that we can review with you for the 23 taps, for the 23 connections.
I would like that to be
Yeah.
a slide for public access, please. And I can give you those breakdowns of items if that needs to be that specific. Slide 20, are they queuing that up?
20?
I'll wait.
Yeah.
Okay, this slide is ready. If you could share it on the screen.
Thank you so much. So the reason I was asking earlier about how did we define the percentages of when we reach water emergency, and it based on 2 factors, is one, what is our actual solution percentage? How do we know what that number needs to be? And 2, are these realistic reductions that we can ask our customer classes to actually apply? It doesn't make any sense for us to say reduce by 50% if they cannot. We have to look for other solutions if that doesn't work. So you asked us in this presentation to not consider anything 2024 and 2025. Luckily here, you said we had a user go offline, so they made a nice line for us on the chart that separates 24 before and after. So if we cut that off and we look prior to 2024, I don't see reductions in those uses. We were not in a drought where we were requiring that, so that would make sense. So if I look 24 and 25, what I still don't see is overall system reductions. I'm not picking on this customer class. I'm trying to be very realistic with the policy document. If I look at this whole chart together, there's lows and peaks based on the 3 seasons defined. Going from 21 to 25, I don't see a steady reduction. I actually see a slight uptick in each of those seasons. I realized last year in the spring when we were looking at this, we were all celebrating and saying, man, there's been a big reduction. But now, based on these season definitions, I see seasonally we should have anticipated there to be a drop in that demand. So I am not picking on this category, but I think we have to be very realistic with this document. If we're going to request somebody cut back by 25%, can they do that? Does that make sense? That's why I'm asking that question. So if we go back to your statements on how did we come up with the 25%? How did we come up with the 50%? You said we looked at best practice. It has to be quantifiable in the Corpus Christi water system for that to make sense. Does that resonate?
Maybe, perhaps. What I can say, Councilwoman, is when we look at curtailment percentages, we've got to look at, we're forecasting where our supply is going to be and where the demand is. Both of those are projections and forecasts. And the curtailment percentage, and it's the same on all customer classes, has to be a number that will provide us, that will lower that demand curve so that our supply won't be outpaced by the demand. That's what we're looking at, and that is for across all customer classes. That is to the benefit of all 7 counties that we serve.
I completely agree with you, Nick, and I love our industrial large volume 100%. I'm saying for this policy procedure, we have to be realistic and accurate, and I don't want to sit up here and make policy on information I don't have. So I find it frustrating and disingenuous that what I've asked for weeks is not presented here today.
Well, it is, Councilwoman. We have it just in aggregate form.
No, I asked for it in detail.
Yeah, we have it, and we're going to give it to you. We didn't want to show it here today, but let me just also answer the question this way. These are targets in the contingency plan today, because we don't know how much water we need to generate. I'm going to talk about it a little bit differently to see if we can, because it's an important topic. So when we forecast out the scenario of where we are in a calendar year and where we see that supply is not going to meet demand, that 6-month forecast, we're going to work with the council to say we want to stretch out that 6-month to maybe 12 months or 7 months or 8 months. And then we're going to know how much water we need to come up with. And that's going to be in the form of less use. And so, yeah, right, yeah, we don't have it yet because we don't know where we are in the calendar year. It's going to be real time.
You're going to look at my house and say, Mark, you use too much water, but Everett, I'm going to let you.
No, Councilwoman, let me just finish. So the Carollo's here because it's not just, these are best practice numbers that we could pick from any country or any state, in America, but it's going to be real-time data that we're going to show the council. The term reverse engineer is something we've used in our staff meetings. And so we have to see where are we in the calendar, how much water do we want to save, how much do we want to prolong not having enough supply, and then we say, okay, this is how much water we need. So to get to that amount of water, there's going to be a percentage that we don't know right now because we don't know where we are in the calendar year, how much water we have to generate. Carollo's going to help us with formula-based analytics to say across all customer classes, you'd have to reduce this same percentage to come up with this much water. And then we're going to have an actual percentage. That's why right now these are just goals in there, the targets, because the real scenario hasn't happened yet. We don't know where we are in the demand time of the calendar. We don't know how much water remains. We don't know how much we have to cut by to generate more months of making sure supply equals demand. Does that make sense?
Peter, when will that come?
Well, it's going to come when we'll have it when we have a better idea of the model that we're going to recommend to council, the scenario. You know, we have A through E. Mm-hmm. And so as we work on the Western Wellfield, we're going to have a better understanding of where, and then, but it won't come until we're close to calling the level 1 emergency, because factors can change. You could have a rain event that could throw off the whole reverse engineered scenario, because you have more water, more supply. So it's going to be real time and data. The DCP is just a guide. The actual real percentage is going to come from modelers with real time data, real amounts of water. But industry, everybody will have to cut. So the notion that they might not be able to reduce water, they're going to have to, because there's not going to be enough to supply if we don't. And that's where that enforcement thing comes in. So they'll have to turn down operations. They know that. And that's why in our meetings they're talking about it already.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I think Everett has a quick.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment on that because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I don't believe that you can sit there and try to implement this model across the board based on, you have to be able to look at the baseline. It's the same thing even on the residential side. I mean, if I happen to believe that a strong family unit is 12 kids, and I decide that that's my goal in life is to have 12 children, and I'm going to have my mother and father live with our unit also to help out, that's a whole different model. And the challenge is we're trying to make blanket policy across the board. When you take a look at industry, you got 23 different sources of the industrial users that have different business models altogether. And so that's the only thing I want to go back to that and say that we have to make sure that, number one, we look at the baseline, and then we put policy or we put things in place that affect those that are not doing their job in terms of conserving based on their baseline. Because I keep hearing we keep basically blanket.
No, it's not. Yeah, so for the 23 large volume users, they have individualized baselines. That's what Councilwoman Patterson was talking about.
And I think that's part of the information that would be nice, even though I know to a degree also that it could be proprietary.
Yeah.
In terms of,
we're going to show it. I mean, it's public information at this point. So at our next workshop, we'll show you the 23.
Yeah, because we need to understand, okay, who is doing a good job and who maybe needs to do a better job, and what are the factors that determine based on their business model that could deter them from doing that. And maybe they're okay with saying, okay, then I'm going to have to, in the event that we make the decision that we're either going to operate or not operate, we'll be more than glad to whatever, have to pay additional money.
Right, yeah. For the large volume users, they have individual baselines. Everybody's is different.
I think that's part of what we were looking at to try to have that information.
Yeah, we'll show that to you, no problem. And then for the residential, though, we have to talk about this if we don't want to do it this way. Right now, all residential are the same, 7,000. There's no exception for the unit of family you just described. We'd have to figure out how to do that. But right now, for residential, it's 7,000 is the target.
I mean, that might be hard. I'm just saying that we have to be practical also.
For commercial, we broke it into meter sizes, so there's 8 different categories in commercial.
Right. Because the other thing is we were talking about multifamily. There's a big difference between, you're right, if you have a 4-unit or a 5-unit, you have individual utilities, and each unit is responsible for their utilities, or if you have a 280-unit multifamily unit with one big meter, and the owner is responsible for that. I know that there's a difference. But anyway, I just want to keep going back and making sure that we remember that that's a challenge. This is a challenge here. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Scott? And then
Councilman, I apologize, I was snippy. But I guess my point was I don't have the ability. I get that each individual large water user has got their own number. But I don't know if, you should cut 15% because you use an open loop and you already use a closed loop, so we're going to let you stay 10%. I mean,
so the percentage reduction is the same across the board.
Yeah, okay.
That's the same. You have to, this is by law. Every classification, every customer has the same percent that they have to reduce by. But what are you reducing from? That's their target amount. And for large volume users, they have individual targets because they're very different.
And I get that there's a reality that some could do more than others.
Yeah.
But I'm not, I don't understand or can pass judgment as to who should do more than the other. That's all I was getting at. Is that if you get that granular, then we're passing judgment on what you do compared to what you do. And I just don't, and it sounds like maybe that's not what we're doing, but because I don't even, you make oil and you make, widgets and you make, aspirin.
Yeah.
I don't know what the water requirements for that are, and I don't think we should be involved, but I appreciate what you said.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay, Nick, go ahead. We're going to go ahead and start on page 23 and go through page 28, which is the last slide, and then we'll have question and answer again.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce Mike Dice, Interim Assistant City Manager, to talk about new water meter connections.
Good afternoon, Council. Mike Dice, Interim Assistant City Manager. It was just brought up earlier about moratoriums, and as Nick stated on slide 13, there could be a proposed council action on moratoriums, but that would need to follow state law, specifically under Texas Local Government Code 212. As you see in the slide, that was amended in the last legislature. House Bill 2559 in the last legislature further clarified the existing rules that were already in place for moratoriums. What it is, it specifically mirrored the existing commercial rules to include residential. It requires multiple public hearings before implementation, and you'll see that timeline across the middle. Before any implementation for any type of moratorium, you would need a 30-day notice for a public hearing. That public hearing would require an additional 30 days for a second public hearing. It would require an additional, after that, within 12 days, an actual vote would have to happen from council on the moratorium. That vote would require 3/4 affirmation from council, and then 28 days, no sooner than 28 days after that would be a second reading. So we kind of have some timelines there. It would take 101 days to get into any proposed moratorium. Specifically within House Bill 2559, this limits to 2 90-day moratoriums. So your first action after that timeline is 90 days of moratorium. Within that 90 days, you can have an extension, which would require a 3/4 vote, would also require city staff basically saying and council affirming that certain items have been met, that the moratorium actually has shown a reduction. Is it improving the situation? Again, another keynote of 2559, you cannot limit or have another moratorium within 2 years after if you do the extension. If you have 180 days aggregate of moratorium, you cannot do a moratorium for 2 years. So that's something to consider. Again, these require 3/4 vote for each vote of council, and it has to follow state law, Texas Local Government Code 212.
Thank you, Mike, for being here and helping us through that and the legislative information. Another topic that we know that comes up a lot is car washing. As I stated earlier, the use of, per the drought contingency plan, the use of water to wash any motor vehicle, motor boat trailer, or other vehicle is absolutely prohibited. This applies to use of water from the CCW water system. Auxiliary water sources may be used, so that may be at your house, it might be rainwater. We know some of our customers have wells. It's important to note that this DCP applies to the CCW water system.
Nick, can you this is a big topic for the council and the community, so just talk a little bit more about the car washes. So
sure.
There are numerous types of car washes. Is the quick quack type car washes, is the wand car washes. You see them at gas stations, they're at HEBs. But if they're hooked up to the city's water system, then you can't operate the car wash. Is that correct?
Yeah, so how it's stated is that car washes are prohibited, which means the actual act of washing the car is prohibited.
Right, so that means if they're hooked up to the city's CCW's water system, and that's their only water source, they won't be able to operate.
Correct. They would need an additional or auxiliary water source.
Okay, so a car wash facility would have to bring in some water from some other location.
Do we know how many are hooked up to the cities?
We don't have it here with us, but we've done some general analysis on usage. So car washes, if they don't have water from some other source, like a well, or if they truck it in, it will be prohibited to be in operation.
Right. I think it's important to know how many are we talking about?
Okay, we'll get you the number.
Which would be simple to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Okay, thank you. Swimming pools is another topic that comes up. The drought contingency plan, page 8 and 9, states the filling and refilling or adding of water to swimming pools, wading pools, and jacuzzi-type pools and hot tubs is prohibited except to maintain structural integrity. So one thing that I think staff has done a good job in instructing the community. There are measures to take for swimming pools shown in the picture as a pool cover to limit the amount of evaporation. Additionally, I know there's chemicals to put in the pool to limit evaporation. The one thing that I would like to say is we've working with our Parks Department, we've asked them to prepare a plan for the city pools, city-owned and operated pools. They're working on that, and they are going to come back with that information, including splash pads as well. We do know splash pads, the rate of evaporation is very high, of course. But we've asked the Parks Department to develop a plan, and they'll come back to all of us with that.
Okay.
At our last council meeting, there was a request to look at the definition of essential water usage. Staff has been looking through that, and what we are proposing is in the DCP to define essential water usage as water use necessary to sustain public health, welfare, safety, sanitation, and fire protection. This would be added to the definitions of the drought contingency plan. Additionally, it's important, and we talked about this in the previous slide, a true definition of auxiliary water supply or alternate water supply. It's a water supply from a source that does not originate from the Corpus Christi water supply system, whether treated or raw. So when you think about that, we should be thinking about potentially a well, a home well, thinking about rain water capture, rain barrels, thinking about the effluent reuse program, where residents can come to the OSO wastewater treatment plant and pick up reuse. There are times when people actually truck water in from another system. One of the key points I just want to make is that this DCP is entirely focused on the Corpus Christi water system, whereas the water conservation plan focus on water conservation in a more general aspect as well. And I do want to, we are talking about wells. There are specific requirements and ordinances for wells. It's just a reminder to the general public, if you're planning on intending to install a well, please reach out to the Corpus Christi Aquifer Storage and Recovery Conservation District. Additionally, there are cross-connection measures that are required to ensure that our water supply system remains safe. So these definitions, they would be to be included in the drought contingency plan. There would have to be an amendment, but we've asked staff to work through this, and this is what our recommendation is. What are our next steps? There was a staff recommendations with city manager recommendation on essential water usage and auxiliary water. That's what I just talked about. We're forecasting that to go forward on the April 14th council meeting. The April 14th or 21st council meeting would be city council approval of surcharges and allocations. A reminder that those would not go into effect until the date of level 1 water emergency. And then the next city council workshop is April 28th. And then of course, next steps, we also have other potential recommendations as well.
Okay. Nick, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments? Councilman Scott.
Hey, are we talking to the tourism industry about potential impacts to them? I'm just thinking about all the fishermen, fishing people.
We are, yeah. So Brooke Coppin, the CEO of Visit Corpus Christi, and I and the executive team in the last monthly executive team meeting spent the entire time talking about this situation. They are going to hire, and we're going to partner with them, a consultant that'll help on messaging. And so that's underway.
I'm just thinking about all the recreational and professional fishing guides who are out of Corpus Christi that I think you have to flush your motor. I don't own a boat, but I think you have to flush your motor anytime you're out in salt water. Mm-hmm. And this would, under this rule, you couldn't use city water to flush the motor.
That's correct.
So I guess the answer would be they'd have to, I'm just curious, have you thought that through? Is that? So they could apply for a variance? Well, I guess if it's,
So yeah, it's important to note that there is a variance provision in the drought contingency plan. And we part of this workshop today was to make people aware of that did exist.
so if I own a boat and I go out fishing, I apply for a variance to be able to flush my boat at the house, I guess. That's interesting. I'm just not sure how that works, but I get, and my response, by the way, is, okay, we just run out of water. So I'm not picking on any of us here, but I think that the fishing industry is a big part of our tourism economy, and I don't know that individual, I guess professional, I could see where professional fishing guides could ask for variances because they're doing that every day. I don't know how much water it uses, and I don't know if you could use, you could bring in other water sources, and flush it that way. I just think that's an issue that we should think through. That's all.
Okay, Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, on the residential tap moratorium, I was a little surprised to see that in the sense that, I'm looking at page 18 of your presentation where it says residential usage has dropped significantly or has met requirements. So I'm thinking, how many residential accounts do we have, and has that changed over time to where, because if you look at our population, we haven't really increased that much. So I'm trying to get the correlation here.
So there are 90,625 residential connections.
Has that been consistent over the years?
I'll get you the exact information, but I would say it's fairly consistent. It goes up. Typically, I know when the housing industry was doing well, it was about 1,000 new homes a year. I don't know what the current data is, but Mike Dice might be able to answer that. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about in terms of you have migration from one area of the city to the other. So there may be a tap, but it might not be an active account. So I want to understand, not from just adding new taps or new permits, but also what is our total number of accounts year over year to see if we're having this increases or not. Because we're talking, you're shutting down mobilization of businesses by doing something like this, when I want to know if it really has impact considering the usage of residential usage.
And again, Mike Dice, Interim Assistant City Manager. So the permitting trend that we've had over the last 5 years has been anywhere from 1,000 to, at one point, we're about 1,500 new residential permits. So those would be new accounts coming online. In addition to commercial accounts, we do about 180 new commercial building permits a year. So that's the thing for council to decide if a moratorium was what council would want. Those are the steps as laid out by state law, how that would be done.
Okay, I understand your point on what you have to deal with, but what I'm asking is on him is the amount of accounts, and are they increasing or decreasing at, because if you have something close here and open up over here and this isn't using water anymore, you've got, like for example, I'll use Hillcrest as an example. They had a lot more houses there back then before the bridge, right? There's less taps over there, so there's less accounts. So, but then there's more on the south side. So I want to know the balance here before we make a decision to stop something. If you don't see the whole picture,
we can get you a historical look back on active accounts yearly.
Okay.
I think yearly is what you're looking for.
And then I'm also looking at this average use per household, right? So I don't want to stop something that they're doing what we're supposed to be doing in terms of getting this stuff done. And make a decision just based on where we're trying to do something instead of looking at the numbers. I want to make sure we have information-informed decisions. Okay?
We can get you that, Councilman.
Yeah,
right?
We can get you that, Councilman.
And just to repeat, it was said here, but there's the staff is not recommending that we put a moratorium on new meters. We're not recommending that today.
Okay.
Yeah, just so the public.
All right, well, I'm just saying, you brought it up. I just want to make sure that if you do decide to do that,
right,
make sure you bring us the information as to the number of accounts.
Correct.
Not just the taps, but the accounts.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I also want to have some more detail. I know it's in the DCP, but I want to have some more detail on these car washes, especially the ones that are supposedly recycling, in terms of how they're used as a commercial, in terms of commercial business, and the size of the meter. And, just, to Councilman Scott's point, I mean, there's certain things that you do that you have to protect your equipment with by washing stuff out. I want to make sure we're looking at it holistically and not just have like, oh, we're going to stop this. I want to make sure I understand the numbers. Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
That's a good point about the boats, because they do have to clean their motors, and this is an opportunity, just like the ones that are watering their lawns. I mean, they have these big trailers. They've got the big hose, because I use them. That's just an opportunity. If anybody's listening, hopefully we won't have to use it. My question is this, or comment. One of the big things we have to do as our city, no matter when we get out of this, is conserving. And I don't think we've showed a conservation to the public to try and help them on the things that they can do. A lot of people, citizens, have good ideas out there, but one of the things is those rain barrels. Do we have the rain barrels?
Yeah, they are
much are
available
they?
at CCW. You can purchase them at City Hall, and then you go to CCW at 2726 Holly to pick them up.
How much are they? Do we know?
They're
$40.
$52 or something.
40?
$47. I bought one 2 weeks ago, my second
Boy, that's
one.
really pricey.
That's cost, and I've seen other rain barrels charge $65 to $70.
Really? Okay.
But it's only cost. of
Okay,
course.
it's 2726 Holly, is that what you said?
Correct.
What you said?
But you purchase them at City Hall in the central cashier's office.
Okay, and then you have to go pick them up yourself.
That's correct.
Because we do have a possibility of rain. It wouldn't be bad to have them, and through the road too. So that's my biggest issue here is I just think we have to come up with the ways for them to conserve because we're going to be in a drought again. We know we'll get water, but we're going to be in a drought again. Okay, there's no way that we could buy in bulk and get those things cheaper. You do buy in bulk?
We're buying them, and Esteban, maybe you can
Gosh.
talk to how many we order at any given time.
At any given time, we order approximately 300 that fits in a large 18-wheeler.
Okay.
And it's a very popular program. My team is talking to customers all the time about it. We're promoting it. It's a very good deal compared to if you go to Lowe's, if you go to different places online. It's affordable. I know Councilwoman Campos has purchased rain barrels from us. I continue to promote it. We have we help with the master gardeners to promote it also. So it's a great program.
Well, and there's a lot of people that absolutely cannot afford them. So maybe we might come up with something to help some of the ones that can't. Just a suggestion. Okay, thanks.
Councilwoman Paxton.
Thank you. So with the recommendations on establishing establishing what we want to do for, what's your last slide? How did you word it?
The next steps, Councilwoman?
Under your next steps. Basically, approval of surcharges and allocations. That would be page 16. That's what you're saying would come before us next, after the update on these definitions?
So, right, so 16 is the surcharges. So if this council moved to approve the surcharges.
But also allocations.
What's that?
But also allocations.
And then, right, and then there's allocations. We would also recommend the surcharges and then recommend the baseline, the curtailment percentage resulting in the allocations.
And that's what's in the table on 16.
Well, 16 is just the surcharges. It's not the baseline or the curtailment or the allocations.
And so when we look at each of the 3 slides where we have the graphs of the different customer class, there's a
Correct.
clear answer on the residential slide, and that's 7,000. But there's kind of averages on commercial and large volume, which I understand those accounts vary greatly.
So,
But
right.
do you see what I'm saying? There's not really a clear definition on those 2 allocations.
You're absolutely correct. So with commercial customers, it'll be based on their meter size. Now, admittedly, we only gave you an example of a 3/4 inch meter size, but there's 1 inch, there's 2 inch, there's 4 inch. So all of that information will be presented so you have a chance to review it. And then again, with the large volume, there are specific baselines set up for those entities.
Okay, so what we know based on the facts of pulling billed information, that is our best, fastest answer to say what is our actual demand, how much has reduction, and what over time shows us patterns. Based on those actuals, it's our residential customers that even though they're the smallest slice of the pie, they are making the most noteworthy changes. I would argue that, sure, they have a little bit more flexibility because their actions are not tied to operations as much as, a business may be. But what's not here is, we have a surcharge where our large volume partners can say, we may not ever need to go into surcharge and curtailment, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pay a percentage over years as a partner. And should that ever come up, I've been paying into it so many years, I'm exempt from it. We can tweak that. We've had some good discussions on it, but there is a provision there. There's nothing really here that says, what about our residents who make up such a small portion that we can be cognizant of the sacrifices they have and continue to make? And also say, how are we protecting their quality of life while they live with us? I mean, we don't have a city to operate if our citizens are unhappy, you know what I mean? And I get it, we have to save water, but some things that come to my mind is kind of like, one, we have a fund set up for individuals who may need utility assistance. They can come and apply, they can get some assistance. Maybe there's something along those lines as far as the rain barrels, like Councilwoman Vaughn was saying. It's like, hey, $50 may be a lot to a lot of our partners, or a lot of our residents. Put it into a system kind of like that. $50 is not so much when it's absorbed into an organization of this scale. But maybe we can still get it out there so that they can do our part. If we can kind of turn that conversation to say, less of, hey, make sure you're not watering your lawn, make sure you're not washing your car, and more of, if you utilize these auxiliary water sources, now that they're defined, you can get these many ways back, and here's what we could do to help you, or here's how that looks. I'm not gonna come out and penalize you when I see a well sign. I'm not gonna come out, hey, the grass looks green. We're looking for ways to actively help you meet those needs through a fair process. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I think that we could stand to really be impactful by adding that message, because what I really would like to see from all of this is a little bit more, how do we embrace our residential customer class who has been bearing so much personal sacrifice for the region, even though they're the smallest slice. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think there's been some comments here that we can take back with staff and try and work on something.
Okay, I think that would be
I think
very
that we talked about the rain barrel and everything, and I remind all of our many people every day. And again, CCW, we're an enterprise fund, so all of our operations and capital expenses are covered by the ratepayers. So and I just want to bring this up. So any beneficial programs that are done at no cost, we still have to recover those costs of services, and that's borne by all of the ratepayers.
How much is left in that $90,000 fund?
The last time I checked, which admittedly was about a month and a half ago, I think there was between $35,000 and $40,000.
Okay, so maybe we say a percentage of that could maybe help offset. Maybe we ask some other partners like, hey, you might not have $1 billion to put towards a new water supply, but do you have a couple hundred which would supply some rain barrels? Just like we took initiative for this, if we're saying that we're going to prioritize auxiliary water use, let's do this as well and get some more water barrels out there to people. And I see on here that there's some adaptation to those definitions from when we brought it last week. What I would like us to do, what I'd like to see is a specific engagement session with our hospitals and healthcares and showing them how they could do those variance requests that match precisely that discussion last week. I see a nod from Chief Wade.
Yeah, we had an initial meeting with them, and thanks to the Chief Wade and his staff, we're very appreciative of their work. They have the connections, and their work. We're committed to those continued meetings with those customers, such as hospitals, such as the schools.
I can count on you for a follow-up to go over that specifically.
You got it.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I add one thing, please?
Yes.
We are acknowledging the work the residential customers have done, as evidenced by the baseline of 7,000. We could have set that lower. We could have said, you know what, we're going to try to squeeze the residents even more and have even a lower baseline. But it's high, 7,000, and they've already made that up, right? The average is in that 44 to 5,000 per month. So most residents won't have to do much when we go into curtailment, when we go into allocations. And so we're kind of rewarding them, and we'll do more, but we're rewarding them with the baseline at that 7,000.
Right.
The average residential customer uses about 6,000, and we're saying we'll bump it up a little bit.
Right.
As acknowledgement that they've done a lot. They've sacrificed a lot.
They have.
They've been in curtailment, as Councilwoman Campos talks about it, for over a year. You know, they've been in curtailment. You can't water your lawn. So there's some recognition there, but we can do more, to Paxton's point. So just want to highlight that in the curtailment amount.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Councilman Roy?
Thanks again for the presentation. A couple things. You know, I know that the residents are doing everything that they can. I mean, I look at my own place, and I know that since this drought, I've had some shifting in my foundation. I know it. I can see it, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, where does this stop? And it's going to cost money to have that repaired. And there's a lot of people that are in that situation. But the thing that doesn't bode well with me is that, and I want to get back on these car washes. I mean, right now, we have an industry with these newer car washes that basically you could go 4 times a day if you wanted to for a set fee and have your car washed. And I understand that some of these car washes are supposed to, reuse water, possibly, you know, that's what they're supposed to do. But if you take a look at the overall car wash and the water when they come out, and they can't capture 100%. But because the other thing is that the towels that they give you to be able to dry they have to put those in washer and dryers. They wash them and they dry them. There's consumption there. And to me, it's ironic that we're sitting here talking about what we're putting through the residents when we have an industry here that it just doesn't make sense from a standpoint of we're in a drought, and who says, okay, you can have unlimited car washes, you know, for $40 a month, whatever the cost is. It just doesn't make sense with me. And we really need to take a look at that during this period of time. Because the other thing is that I'm curious, if you go back historically and you take a look at their consumption, and this should be real easy to look at their consumption from the beginning of our drought until now. I bet that their numbers haven't changed at all. They haven't done anything to try and conserve water at all. Zero. Except, and it just, to me, that it's an irony. It just doesn't make sense. And I hope my other council members would support me on this. We need to take a look at it. We need data to understand, and we need to understand historically, have they done anything? Because we're limiting people from maintaining their boats and their engines. We don't let them, but we're willing to just sit there and have somebody go 4 or 5 times a day. You know, I've seen it where people get a little spot of bird poop, instead of just going in there and wiping it off. Oh, let me just go back through the car wash again. You know, we need to look at it.
Yeah, I agree, Councilman.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Campos.
Thank you, Mayor. And I couldn't agree with you more, Councilman Roy. I do believe that we should, as a matter of fact, that was early on about the moratorium on those car washes. And I, again, back to rewarding our residents. It's been brought up before, you know, like and I think y'all do it anyway, but maybe we could just do a better job. Like the low flow shower heads, and I think, you know, the toilets, so some of them can be replaced with that. I mean, those are the little things that I know that we can do. And it's because we know residents, right? But we don't know how we can look at. And now lately, since I've been doing the air water amendment, I've been talking to a lot of people, and especially people that are in industry. They're, you know, they concur that there is some water abuse, and they say, yeah, you know, I know that we use a lot of water, and I know that there's a lot of waste, but these employees don't have the opportunity to say, hey, this is what you can do, or this is what, you know, you could improve on the system like we do here, because we know what we can do. They work in those plants. I wish that they, again, industry would listen to their employees. But anyway, I really wanted to ask you also about the aqua storage. What's going on with that? I mean, because eventually we will get rain. Eventually we will get water. So are we set up for the extra rain that we will be getting? And we do have the storage set up for it? The aqua storage?
Okay. So, of course, our primary storage in the western is Lake Corpus Christi and Choke Canyon Reservoir. I think you're referring to aquifer storage and recovery.
Yes.
So that is one, typically that's utilized for reuse water.
Oh.
And the initial efforts that the city has looked in, the initial studies, was to use effluent reuse to pump it into the aquifer, which it would then, the water quality would improve. Then at times of need, we would pump that effluent reuse, that water out of the aquifer, treat it, and use it into our potable water system.
Okay.
The more immediate effort showing quicker results is immediate sale of wastewater effluent to users. And the benefit there is it brings that demand curve down much sooner.
Yes.
And it has a much quicker impact on the entire system.
And I'm grateful that we are moving forward on that. I guess those are the only comments that I had left. Well, let me see if there's any. As far as large scale, like I said, you know, we know as residents what we can do, but I really don't know what large scale water capture systems would look like for industry. Do we ask that question whenever we do meet with them? I mean, I see Bob Paulson out there. Could we ask him? I mean, what water capture systems are they using? Are they utilizing? Can we ask them that question?
It's probably a question for the mayor if Bob Paulson can come up and answer a question. I'm not sure on a workshop what the
Well, I mean,
what the procedures are.
about what kind of water capture systems some of these industries have in place. We know what we are doing, you know, as residents, how we're trying to save water. I look all the time and I'm trying to figure out what is it that they have in place.
Yeah.
A water capture
That's
system.
probably, and I'm sure Mr. Paulson would sit with you and talk with you, but I mean, I think it may be a little off of our last three bullets here, Councilwoman, before, we have two other people.
Okay. All right,
But
well,
he is
it's
here.
out there.
I'm sure he'll sit with you.
I'd love to have that conversation with him. All right, thank you.
Thumbs up.
I took the note too, Councilman.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Scott?
Sorry, Mayor, I'll be quick. So, Steve, I think years ago, didn't we do a free rain barrel drive? Somehow I thought in the last 15 years, we just bought X hundred of them and said, come one, come all, and, you know, because it encouraged
Yes, when I got here almost 10 years ago, prior to that, the Rain Barrel program was one giveaway.
Yeah.
And I wanted to expand the program and make it cost effective and give more to more people out. So then that's where we went to, okay, at a low cost, how can we provide rain barrels to more people and have it running the entire year? So that's when we developed the cost effective project, and then we keep on funding it.
Okay, I guess my point is, we did it, if you ask, I guess part of this, asking my opinion, I'd do a drive. I'd buy 300 of them and say, anybody that wants one in the month of May, because the rains are coming, you know. You can bring it back if the rains never come, I don't know. But I'd support some sort of initiative to provide free rain barrels. We have one, and I don't know if we got it back when or if Carol bought it, but we have one. And we like it, we use it, and that's kind of a big deal. Side note, we didn't put it high enough off the ground, so I do have water pressure issues. The second part of this is that, so in level 1 water emergency, no hand watering potted plants, no watering.
So what the plan says is landscaped areas. I would say that a potted plant is in a landscaped area.
Is not, or
is not.
I'm gonna remember this moment.
So one thing that we're working with our communications team is to develop a list of frequently asked questions. That's a good question.
Well, I guess let me tell you the philosophy here. So I saw the drop in residential use, and it allowed hand watering, right, of potted plants, and so I don't know that. And we've had this conversation about how much more can we reduce residential use. And so in an attempt I think people love their plants, right? And they want to be able to water plants. Now, if we run out of water, everybody will take additional measures, but I don't know that there's, what's that called, much more blood in the turnip to, you know, to squeeze out. So I would look for some language that's still allowed or communicate that you can still hand water. Frankly, I don't know why we don't, I've never understood why we don't allow soaker hose systems. Especially, soaker hose system. Like, can we use it now for your foundation? Right. So
we can use it for your foundation. Yes, you can water your foundation, but you can't use soaker hoses to water landscaped areas.
So, but I like to water my foundation from 6 feet out in, and so I'm kidding. So you can use a soaker hose to water and maintain the integrity of your foundation. You can hand water potted plants, just not landscaping. If it were me, I'd have a conversation around allowing hand watering the landscape. But I don't know if that's something we're interested in. But I don't want to increase residential water use. But my sense is the citizens have done a tremendous job, and we should reward that. And if you can still maintain the integrity of your home, the outside of your home, by standing there in 100-degree heat and hand watering your landscaping, I'd let them. And then I definitely would go to some sort of one-time giveaway, see if it works on the rain barrel, and then, you know, evaluate it later. Those are my 2 cents.
Nick, I'm going to just throw this out there. It may not be a huge issue here, but in Port A, there are thousands of golf carts, and all of those golf carts are very much, they're washed, I mean, regularly, because they're rented out. So I just think, I don't know that that's at all addressed, but just food for thought there. How would we address something like that? Okay, Councilman Hernandez. Or, who was it? Yeah, Councilman Hernandez.
Okay, thank you. You know, while I was here waiting, I looked at the Texas Water Code 11.039, and it really just addresses how you do pro rata if you don't have I guess they're calling it a conservation plan, and how you do it if you do have a conservation plan. It doesn't really talk about enforcement or any, it's just kind of it's 3 paragraphs. I don't know how that really applies to what we're doing, considering we do have a plan. Also, what are we voting on an ordinance on April 14th?
So we provided today some suggested definition language. And if you look at the next steps, there was, on April 14th, there was going to be a staff recommendation to add those definitions to this. The
To
second.
what? To what? To add to what?
To add to the drought contingency plan.
Okay, so
To
you
add to
want-
the document.
So this is an ordinance? Because the drought contingency plan is an ordinance.
That's correct.
So are we going to have two readings, or is this going to be an emergency reading?
I mean, we could do 2 readings.
Okay.
Yeah. 'Cause of-
So there are some things that I think you're leaving out here. Councilwoman Paxton had brought an agenda memo to the last council meeting about essential services like hospitals, dialysis, stuff that we're supposed to have some sort of carve out. That is not in your recommendations. Also, I really want to have very clear understanding or language with regards to the wholesale aspect, multifamily, and so if those need to be really defined. Commercial use, if you're going to put, is there going to be anything in the drought contingency plan on reduction of permits or moratoriums?
That's a separate that would be a separate policy.
Separate policy, so that's not going to be included.
Probably not. I don't,
Right.
Yeah, it wouldn't be within the document, but yeah. And we wouldn't do that until we provide you a lot more information.
Okay, and lastly, I don't know if I agree with how you're interpreting section K of 12.1 of the non-mandatory drought surcharge exemption fee. Like, maybe a legal brief or as to how that you're interpreting that or why, because I don't want to open us up to lawsuits.
Yeah, we can get that legal brief.
Okay, thank you.
And then Councilwoman Paxton's 3 signature memo. So in the discussion we had, it was late, that last council meeting, but we agreed to drop that last sentence where it listed those entities by name. I think Councilman was supportive of that. So this definition is reflective of how we discussed it during the council meeting. And Chief Wade helped to clarify the rationale for why we would recommend it that way. I thought Councilwoman Paxton was fine with it, but if not, yeah.
There's some specific call-outs, right?
I know.
That I think I want to make sure we protect those situations where you have, I know people on dialysis, at least 2, that I know it's an important thing to keep them alive. And I want to make sure we take care of those particular industries. Now, like I said, the way our DCP is written, we need to understand how that commercially, because you had only the one example of the 3/4-inch line. I want to be very clear on a lot of this stuff, because ultimately all this will come back on us as council members.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Councilwoman Paxton.
Thank you. So to speak to that point, what I was saying at that meeting was I was hoping to pass at least the definitions that night because it is a second reading. So my intentions were if we paused that so that we could craft that and move forward with the item so that we weren't sitting here a week later now still planning 2 readings so that the process could move forward with getting the definitions on there. But I still very much am concerned, to Councilmember Hernandez's point, is how we are going to handle our healthcare hospitals, emergency services, senior care facilities, dialysis facilities. The whole list was included on there. Once we pass, by definition, this category of essential services, my question is, at baseline, their water consumption goes to that definition. So the confusion here is, if we've told them that we're in a drought stage 3 or a level 1, it's already stated landscaping irrigation is a no-go. These non-essential services are a no-go. So that's already put off the table. So what's frustrating to me is that we continue to not acknowledge that by definition now, when we put it in the book, their operations are exempt. So essentially, the drought contingency plan, all it does is says, cut back or we're going to charge you more. And then there could be further penalties if you still continue to not cut back. But all of that would not even apply to those users because they fit under an essential definition, provided they're not doing things like landscaping. Am I incorrect?
Let's have Chief Wade maybe come up, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
And we can do it too, we couldn't do the ordinance, it wasn't captioned for an ordinance vote the last council meeting, but we can do a two read in one, for that next meeting. For the 14th, we'll do a two reading in one ordinance.
No, I don't mind following the rules, but that was my hope.
Right, yeah.
So Brandon Wade, Fire Chief, still to address that, I think there's a process in place in the DCP currently for a hospital, for a dialysis center, to say, if this is my baseline, maybe they need to stay at that baseline and not go under a curtailment or a pro rata allocation, and then they could apply for that, and then they'd be able to say exactly why they need that, and maybe it's for their process, but they would also still be listing the things that they're doing to ensure that they're looking at every way to conserve water. So they would still be listed, and then by carving out, just say public health, and you've carved out maybe 5 of them. Did you capture all of them? I don't know if we did.
I got that definition from CBRAC, the one
Right.
that we've identified as our liaison to the
But there's other things within essential water use, sanitation, fire protection, safety. There
Which
could
were
be other
listed.
businesses that apply as well. And then that same category would just give an automatic potentially exemption to a number of businesses that are there. So I still think with that saying, here's what's essential water. And I've looked again at some other places, El Paso, that listed in a definition for essential. They were very vague. They used public health, they used safety, they used welfare. And then within that definition, if you need an exemption, they can apply for it. So we're not saying that they don't have a means to ensure that they're still sustaining their operation for public health. It's there. We're just not looking to get so granular within a definition that somebody gets the automatic exemption. And then I say automatic exemption to what? Is it to the prohibited items as well?
Can I see my time actually as I keep talking? I am trying to avoid the overburdening, redundant processes that we can already account for by good policy that we've adopted. So if we're saying that health, safety, and public safety, cleanliness, as in these categories, is an exempt essential service, then understanding that it is against code in drought stage 3 level 1 restriction to continue to water your lawn, to continue to do things like exterior cleanings, then that's already carved out. We've already all said nobody gets to do that. However, if you continue to serve the public through health and safety, that's an essential service. We're not going to come and wrap your knuckles for that. My fear is what we're doing is creating this system where we're shooting them in the foot and saying you have to jump through even more hoops to do something that we just codified.
I think you could look at it 2 different ways. The way that you are looking to eliminate them going through a process for the exemption, it sounds like that's what you're looking for. I think that is a way, but I think that could open the door to other businesses that aren't specifically listed in there, assuming that they fall under that same category and get an exemption, an automatic exemption.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to insist that we have a specific engagement session where they can all be listed in there. Because what I don't want to do is in several weeks from now, God forbid, but if we go into a level 1, I don't ever want to get a call from one of these providers and say I was penalized for providing service.
Sure.
Ever. That's what I want to protect against.
Right. That's understandable, and I think that's why it's important within the application for an exemption that they're listing the services that they're doing, and this is what we're applying that water to. And maybe that's why they need to have potentially an exemption for a reduced curtailment. I don't know what that looks like, but I think just to lay a blanket statement across any business and say you're exempt, I don't know if it would achieve exactly what you're doing. I think there could be some unintended consequences, some of the unknown unknowns that we don't know about. So
I think it depends on how we write it, but if this system, if we're going to try it that way, That's what I'm saying. It needs to work. And we need to do our due diligence to make sure that it works and nobody gets left out.
I agree, and you can already see within a DCP that has been amended, it's been here for years, as Corpus Christi has been one of the first ones to implement it. The language in there isn't exact to this day, as we're still talking about the language in there. So that's where if we think we're just going to write something very prescriptive and it's just going to automatically address the problem, I don't know if that's the case, but I do believe under the definition of essential services or essential use, saying public health, welfare, and safety, when somebody can go in and specifically put in their exemption application their needs and what they're requesting, CCW can take a good look at that and then provide an answer back to them.
I want a system that works, and as you can see, my efforts have taken over a month. If this was an emergency situation and we needed to do a change and we needed to do a reparation, we may not have a month. So if we're making a system, it has to work.
Sure.
Thank you. I have a couple other questions. I do want to take a moment real quick and say I don't think that setting our residential level to 7,000 gallons is a reward. I think it's an acknowledgement. I think it's a placeholder for realistic use. So I just want to say it's not exactly a reward. So I want to be real clear with if we want to reward our residential users that we do that. Baseline, I'm just going to acknowledge a baseline number. That's not a reward. That's below the bar.
We think it is, Councilwoman, but that's fine. We're going to do more like the barrels we're talking about, yeah.
So to Mark's question, as far as the difference between landscaping and potted plants, something that's big in my district is these vegetable/fruit gardens. Right now, under information we got last year, was individuals could hand water their gardens.
No, it's a great question.
It's a very real question.
So I don't have to go out at midnight now and hand water my vegetables. You're telling me I can do it in the light of day.
Exactly. I want to make sure that my question is that application here.
Yeah, but you're talking about the level 1 emergency, Councilwoman? Yeah, so in the level 1, they're prohibited.
Correct.
All hand watering is prohibited.
It would be,
Just say.
so think,
Potted plants, hand watering potted.
so it's potted plants, but what the DCP says landscaped areas, which has largely been considered gardens and landscaped areas.
So if you have a tomato in a pot, tomato plant in a pot, you can water the tomato?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm gonna put
Under a level 1 emergency.
pot, okay. So
Yeah.
it's gonna have no bottom. I'm just, sorry.
Final point, I'll make it real quick. I think in all these discussions, we really need to take some time with perhaps some illustrations to explain that at the end of the day, what we're trying to avoid is a loss of pressure in our water system. I think you said the threshold was under 10%. It triggers a boil notice.
Yeah, actually, it's 35%. So when supply doesn't meet demand, there's an inconsistency in the available water, which means that the system pressure could fluctuate. TCEQ regulations say that when we are below 35 PSI, the requirement is to call a boil order notice. It's not because the water's, doesn't mean we took a water sample and it was unsafe. It means the pressure doesn't meet their standard system requirements.
When we go in and put all the finite details in there, I'd like to see that percentage associated with the volume figure, so it makes sense. Why are we doing this?
It's two things too, Councilwoman. So it's pressures and also just trying to have water supply, whether it's a reduced amount or not. It just helps to protect the resource. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So we could show both.
Councilman Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. I made the motion last week with regard to the exemption, and then since then I got a bunch of calls. I think we just need to exercise some flexibility. I understand. The thing is the next council can say, okay, no, I don't like that. And I think that we have some flexibility with who we use. I mean, I talked to a hospital system that they're discussing digging wells, and that I think the thing is that if you look at it from the devil's advocate, and that's where I say we get into the weeds, that we're gonna they're expending their dollars to try and take themselves off the system for a couple of reasons. Number one, because they want to be good partners. Number two, because they're not satisfied with our consistency, and the fact that we haven't been able to solve the problem. So they want to remove themselves from our dependency. So I think we just need to be conscientious. If we're going to put together a policy, number one, it can be undone in 2 years. Number two, if somebody is taking themselves is willing to spend the capital to expend themselves, then we're going to actually penalize them, because we're going to exempt somebody else for not doing that. We just need to be conscientious of that. And I think the system that we have, where we're going on a one-on-one basis, I'll talk to you a little bit more about it later, about the conversations, because I don't want to belabor it. The other thing is that I don't think we're rewarding people for using less than 7,000 gallons. I mean, if like I said, you could say I'm exempt, or my household is exempt. The thing is that, but I still can't water my lawn, so I'm not getting rewarded. I'm just being afforded the opportunity not to pay a citation. It doesn't cost me $500 now. I'm saving. The penalty would be, it's a stick method. So you're not really rewarding me for everything, because I'm watering my lawn because I'm not watering my lawn, and I'm not washing my truck. I got on Cindy's case the other day. She washed my truck. Of course, she took it to a quick quack or whatever. But I said, Jesus, you want the councilman's truck to look dirty. It's not supposed to be clean. I'm being facetious, but my point is that I want to just reiterate, we're not rewarding anybody. So I just don't want to mischaracterize that, because if I'm not using 7,000 gallons, I'm not using 7,000 gallons. But I can tell you my household is still very conscientious, at least at, I spoke to a couple of high school kids, I spoke to a group of high school kids on Thursday, and they were asking how they can conserve. And I said, just very simple things. Just turn off the water when you brush, and what is it? And I got a couple of snickers when I said, you only have to flush the toilet once, But, those are some simple things that they could do that are not onerous. And believe it or not, there was a lot of high school seniors that had that had the beards, And I said, if you're going to shave, either use an electric razor or just once again, just use it. Anyway, I'm just giving those examples where that's just responsible behavior. So I don't want to get into say that we're rewarding people, because I don't think we are. Anyway, my point, that's all.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, well, that concludes our question and answer. Nick, thank you to the staff, everyone that's here. Thank you all for being here. And we will look forward to the next one, April 28th, right?
That's the next workshop is April 28th.
Next workshop, yeah. Okay, so there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
It's a good compromise, and that's something that we do. One thing I'm extremely proud of is we have over 700 trees that we water, and it's on an 11-day cycle. Lots of work that go into that, but we kind of thought outside the box a little bit, and we have these tree teepees now that we've put at some of our parks, West Guth and Hong Suter, that kind of act like a greenhouse and it requires less water. And the water that we use is the effluent water. So it's not like we're just hooking up hoses and water. We have to go get the water from the effluent. We team up with the fire department. We use some of their big trucks to help us do that. So it's just a lot. We're very, very mindful of the drought, but we understand that we need these amenities. and we
I
need
can
things
see you
to-
guys are trying to be creative in the ways that you use the effluent or the reclaimed water that the city
Right.
does have available.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear. I think that's very responsible in the way that we're taking ownership of the parks and amenities.
Right. And we're actually building to include, so all of our projects now will actually have effluent line connectivities, or in the future, we're looking to actually enhance the city-wide. So that way, a lot of our parks can just connect to an effluent line and be able to utilize that. And so our teams can get back out to doing what they do, everyday operations, and, save that time and energy. Because we've also been in partnership with the fire department. So the fire department is actually helping our teams out by coming out and delivering water for them so that they don't have to actually go back to the
I
treatment
love to
plant.
see that
And
collaboration.
so there's a lot of collaboration that's going, and even with CCW, they're helping us with water wells and, always thinking outside the box for us as well to say, this would help you all. And so we're definitely looking at different initiatives at every angles, and community feedback is